All right. I'll turn down the music just a little bit here. All right, y'all. I appreciate you guys be patient with me. So whenever you're watching this, whether it's live or you're watching the VOD, I appreciate y'all just being patient. Sorry I had to end the post-game stream. I had to finish something up here to make sure I don't fail something. But I wanted to kind of come back here and start talking about the trade deadline for the Bulls. So I do appreciate you guys checking back in on the stream and sticking with me through 2 streams tonight. So I know it's late, so whenever you do watch this, I do appreciate whenever you do watch it. Doesn't have to be live, but I want to kind of go over a couple of things it's been running through my mind. I've been sick recently, so I've had a lot of time to kind of think about the Bulls. So there's been a lot of stuff that I've been trying to sort out in my head, where exactly is this Bulls team actually going to be moving towards? Are they, we're 14-18 now in the season. It's been a stupid season, 15-19, excuse me, on the season. It's been ridiculous season. It's been up and down, roller coaster. We're beating good teams. We can't win against bad teams. And it's very evident the big 3 is not working for this Bulls team, right? So what is this front office actually going to be thinking about doing moving forward, right? And I'm kind of, trying to gauge where this front office is actually, or where they stand. I'm sure that they thought, when the Bulls were on that 6-game or however game losing streak it was, they're like, that's unacceptable. We can't continue to do that. And there has to be some sort of changes happening. But I don't fully expect this Bulls team to actually rebuild, right? I know a lot of Bulls fans have been calling for a rebuild, especially when the Bulls were 8 games under 500. I understand why a lot of Bulls fans want the rebuild to happen, right? And it's mostly due to Victor Wembanyama. I see you, Cuckler, in your chat message. I'll get to you in a second. I'm aware of what's been being said about Stacey King. But I understand why Bulls fans want the rebuild to happen. Victor Wembanyama is looked at as a generational talent that many people are like, we cannot pass up on this sort of talent. And I understand how enticing that is, but I have to keep thinking to myself that this Bulls team, they're down a pick, right? They're down this year's pick, and then they're also down the 2025 pick. If you're going to actually hit the reset button for a team and full out rebuild and full out decide to tank, you need to have full control of your pick. And I've discussed this so many times on this channel. It's like, there needs to be, you have to have your pick if you're even going to consider rebuilding, right? Or at the very minimum, you have to have an abundance of picks. And I don't think trading, whether you trade Vooch, DeMar, and Levine, trading those 3 guys, I don't think it nets you enough draft picks that are going to be, upcoming, that are going to be picks in upcoming drafts. I'm talking 2023, 2024, right? Because those are the 2 years, if you're going to hit the reset button, it's going to be the 2023 draft. The 2024 draft is where you're really looking to set your foundation for the team. And I don't see any teams really, giving up picks that are going to be for 2023 or 2024. I see teams, I think a lot of teams right now, they're looking to give up a lot of later picks. So, we're talking 2025, 2027 later on. And, everyone keeps throwing out is the Lakers 2027 and 2029 picks. And that's where it's like, I'm not accepting those picks for DeMar DeRozan or Zach LaVine or Nikola Vucevic. Okay. If the Bulls are going to trade those guys for draft picks, you cannot trade them for picks that are 5 years down the line if you're going to rebuild, okay? Those picks then do not matter, right? You need to get picks early, right? 2023, 2024, maybe 2025. But I'm not going to be accepting something that's going to be way down the line. And I feel like a lot of teams right now, they're not looking to trade the upcoming picks because they kind of have a gauge of where the upcoming drafts are going to be. Those picks down the line, though, they're not really looking at it too much. So they're like, yeah, we're willing to trade these away, even though they're so far into the future. And again, if the Bulls are going to rebuild, you need to get those picks early. And everyone's calling for the reset to happen now, or, during this season, and then, or maybe after next season. I'm just like, no, it's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen because, one, the Bulls don't have their pick or full control of their pick, but number two, I don't see teams trading their 2023 pick or 2024 pick for the Bulls players right now. Okay, I don't see the Bulls getting those types of players or getting those types of draft picks in return. So therefore, I don't think it's actually worth the team and start thinking about, hey, let's hit the full out rebuild button and move on from there. Now, one thing that I think a lot of Bulls fans are like, they're full out right now, not thinking about. They're just all out, like it's either tank or we go all in somehow on this team. I've been saying that this team, they don't need to think all in for this year or even next year, right? When DeMar DeRozan came here and Lonzo Ball came here and Alex Caruso came here, you have to understand that this team just did not make the playoffs. They're a 31-win team in a 72-game season. They didn't make the playoffs. They just got Vooch, and they had Zach, okay? They're in the middle of legit redoing the entire roster. So the Bulls front office was like, all right, we're going to get as much talent as we can to get here, a.k.a. Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic. We have Zach, we're keeping him, okay? We drafted Patrick Williams. Everyone else is gone, okay? They got a lot of guys to come here and come in and fill some big roles. Lonzo Ball, the point guard position. Lonzo's supposed to be the point guard of the future for this team. Obviously, that has not worked out because Lonzo's been injured, and who knows if he's ever coming back. But Alex Caruso's come in and be the sixth man for this team. Another very important piece, okay? DeMar DeRozan's going to come in and help get this team, get in or drive or help the offense with this team. Another guy that can make shots. Another guy that can help kind of change the culture around this team so that we become a more winning organization than we were the past 5 seasons. Obviously, Zach's here. He's already been an All-Star once. Then becomes a 2-time All-Star. And Vucevic is supposed to be here, again, to help, bring in a veteran presence and actually be an All-Star type center. A lot of things have not worked out with this team, but either way, let's say everything does work out with this team, right? Which we've gotten the best out of DeMar, right? He's been phenomenal. Was an MVP candidate last season. Zach, maybe last season he doesn't get injured and where he's still averaging 25, 26 points per game. Vooch is somehow still an all-star in his, and not shooting 31% from 3-point range. And then Lonzo Ball doesn't get injured, or Alex Caruso doesn't get injured. My point is this: even if everything went right for this team, when the Bulls front office accumulated this squad, I still think that they're like, this isn't enough, right? And I think they're aware that this wasn't enough to get this team to where they really want to be. They've said throughout their entire time here that this is going to be a step-by-step process. This isn't something for them to get all of a sudden become a winning organization or a championship organization overnight, okay? And I understand that, we're about to hit the 3-year mark with AK and Mark Eversley, but how many times have we seen a new front office come in, and again, NBA, we're talking NBA terms here, a new front office comes in, and all of a sudden that team becomes a championship caliber team overnight? I'm aware that they've invested a lot in this sort of core here, but I think they're also aware that to win a championship, it takes a long time to win a championship. Whether it's you're going through the draft or you're deciding to be aggressive. Either way, it's still going to take a lot. And even if everything went right for this Bulls team, okay, and I'm talking about, again, everything somehow went right. Lonzo isn't injured. Caruso doesn't get injured. Vucevic doesn't regress so hard. They still probably think that this is not enough because the supporting cast for this team is still bad, right? Yes, we got Alex Caruso here. I love Javonte Green. He drafted out Asumu, who I think is going to be a good player. But the supporting cast, no matter what, is just is not enough, right? And the Bulls had limitations. Obviously, you traded away the 2 first-round picks in for the Vucevic trade. But you're already at the season where both those picks are going to be fulfilled to the Magic, okay? That pick in 2023 is going to the Magic. And then all of a sudden that Vucevic trade is done. Did the Bulls win it? No. But you're not down those picks anymore. And then the next pick they're going to be down is in 2025. So after this season, you're looking at this Bulls team is only down 1 pick, and if anything, they got a pick back in the Portland Trailblazers trade, which will hopefully it conveys this year. So it's honestly it's a 1-for-1 this year. So you're basically only down 1 pick from what we're looking at from here on out. So the assets are gonna start coming back for this Bulls team. We're looking at almost every single pick except for 2025, and you're gonna see more assets come onto the table for this Bulls team to either move or to keep. Okay, so my point is that this team is not dead in the water if they decide, okay, let's actually look to not rebuild, but let's look to retool and start moving forward here. And this is the reason why things are going to get really interesting at this trade deadline, because just because that this Bulls team, is in the play-in tournament, is somehow 10th in the play in the standings, even after this treacherous season so far through 34 games. They understand that this Bulls team needs to still get better every single season, and so far this season they've gotten worse. So I guarantee you that they've already started thinking, okay, what can we do now to get this team into a better position here? And this is where I'm like, there needs to be something done here at the trade deadline. And I don't know exactly what they're thinking, but in my head, one of the big three has to get moved. Okay. And so far, it looks like they're fully committed to Zach LaVine. I know people have been up and down about Zach LaVine all season, and I'm a little confused why they're still hating on him still. Like, I legit just saw this tweet by Tony Gill, who works for NBC Sports Chicago, and I'm just like, bro, like, what? Like, why do we keep talking about this? Okay? This is the media creating all this sorts of stuff where it's like we're starting to blame Zach for a lot of things, right? And I understand he hasn't played amazing this season. I'm fully aware, but he's the one that the Bulls team is committed to. They've given the 5-year contract to him. I know he said some things that people have not been happy about, but let's be honest. I think Billy Donovan also deserves to be looked at hard for this season. So they've committed fully to Zach here. Okay, and I've been thinking that the reason why they've been all in on Zach is because of he's 27. They're trying to make this winning culture with Zach here. Whether that involves him and they end up winning a championship with him or not, they're looking to build another core with Zach. I'm talking when Zach's closer to 29, 30, 31 during the later years of his contract. He's 27 now. Okay, there's a couple years still left of him with this core, right? But then we're still going to see years of Zach LaVine with a different core, right? So he's kind of that bridge in between guy. So they're looking to make sure that they're competitive every single season, even if it doesn't mean that they're going to be winning the championship. But they're gonna have Zach around as that stabilizing force, right? Or at least some sort of guy that they've invested the franchise into. Not fully, just a guy that is going to be here for the long run. Okay, Zach's here. Okay, now with DeMar DeRozan, I don't know exactly what they're thinking about that with him. This whole report of Zach and DeMar having issues, Tony Gill is one of these people thinking that there is this big issue between the two of them. I personally don't really think there's much of an issue. I know DeRozan kind of admitted that maybe there is a little bit of some ongoing issues on the court, but at the end of the day, there's not like an off-court issue between the two of these guys, okay? And a lot of people have been saying, why doesn't Zach get more shots in the fourth quarter? Why does he look to take over in the fourth quarter? Well, this stat right here, I'm here to tell you that at the end of the game, it's usually one player has the ball in their hands and the other all-star is kind of out there, right? And they're there to be the backup option. If Zach LaVine is your number 2 guy, is your backup option, right? If the guy that if your main option gets doubled and they force the ball out of his hands and you need to swing it over to the other side of the court and still get a bucket, I want Zach LaVine to be that guy. So far through the fourth quarter, these two guys have been very good, okay? People talk about Zach's struggles early on. Yeah, he struggled early on in the fourth quarter, but he's done a damn good job recently. We saw him hit 2 big shots against the Atlanta Hawks. We saw him hit big shots against the New York Knicks. And then we saw him hit 2 big threes in the fourth quarter tonight. He didn't get any touches really in overtime, but that's okay. Him just being out there is incredibly effective. So I don't know what this whole idea is between these two guys. It's like, oh, there's an issue going on. But to me, at least for now, and you guys can disagree with me on this, I think these two are here to stay. I know I've talked about a lot about potentially DeMar DeRozan getting traded to the Phoenix Suns, but I think right now the Bulls front office is committed to these two guys. Okay, and I don't know how long they're committed to DeRozan. They're at least committed to DeRozan, in my opinion, for another season, or at least the rest of this season, I should say. But to me, I think these two guys are here. Okay, these are the two guys that, to me, they've invested the most into. Obviously, Zach with the max contract, but they've also basically built an offense around DeMar DeRozan. Okay, they've invested a lot in these two guys. And by the way, it's not like DeMar DeRozan hasn't been very fond of Billy Donovan this season either. So it's so interesting to see everyone's like, Zach doesn't take blame enough, or why is Zach blaming the coach and stuff like that. DeRozan hasn't exactly said great things about Billy Donovan either this season. And I haven't really heard DeMar DeRozan take much blame for things either. It's been a lot of we as a team. So, you know, I don't know what's going on between the players and the coaching staff, but at least in my eyes, from what's happened so far, what the actions of the front office have done is they've committed to these two guys here. Okay, these two guys are here at least for, to me, the rest of this season. I think Zach's here for the long run. DeRozan might only be here after next, or for just this season and next season, but they're here, right? Which then leads me to this. It leads me to the Nikola Vucevic. Okay, we're at this point right now that this Bulls front office has, like, we're about to see this Vucevic trade be fully completed at the end of the 2023 NBA draft. Okay, where the picks are gone, right? The picks are over. They're sent to the Magic. The Vucevic trade is officially over at the end of the 2023 draft. Most likely, I should say, right? And again, Nikola Vucevic is going to be an unrestricted free agent this offseason, and there has been no talks between the Bulls front office and Nikola Vucevic about a contract extension, right? There has been nothing in the works. I understand that the Bulls kind of work in secret. They gave the secret extension to Billy Donovan, but I feel like we'd be more aware of something like this because Shams and Woj are on top of stuff when it comes to the players, okay? They know when contract negotiations are going on, right? The Indiana Pacers just opened up contract negotiations with Miles Turner. That was reported by Shams, okay? So if Shams knows that, he knows if something is going to be going on between the Bulls and Vucevic. And right now, there's nothing, which I think kind of sticks out as a sore thumb, which to me tells me, okay, if there's anyone that's going to get moved here due to the circumstances that are at play, where Vucevic has kind of been relegated to the third option, he's kind of the odd man out in this whole situation. You got him looking for a new contract. He's about to hit unrestricted free agency. Probably wants to go to somewhere that he gets more touches and is a bigger part of the offense, and probably wants a bigger payday than the Bulls are going to be willing to give him. Also, he doesn't fit in with this roster very well, as this roster very clearly needs a more athletic center that is more defensive oriented, that can sometimes switch on to the perimeter guys, but he has to be more mobile and agile than what Vucevic is. That's what this team needs moving forward. To me, this is where it's like he's the guy that I'm looking at as he's probably getting moved this deadline. Because if the Bulls don't move him at the deadline, to me then it might signal that there's bigger, humongous moves coming up, and to me it almost kind of signals we might be hitting the reset, like the severe reset button, if Vucevic isn't moved. Because to me that's almost saying we're just letting this guy go on for nothing, and we're aware of it. Okay. And we couldn't find a trade that is worth us trading him for, and we just rather just let him go for nothing. Which to me kind of signals, hey, we're resetting. We're flat out, we're tearing it all down, right? So to me, if this Bulls front office is going to be like, no, we're moving forward, we're looking to retool, we're looking to actually win, Vucevic I think has to get moved. Okay. So this trade deadline to me is significant. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do. Now, if Vucevic isn't moved, and we see other moves that correlate to the Bulls trying to look to win now, whether it's adding a shooter or adding another forward to the roster, adding a point guard, because hell, does this Bulls team need a point guard? Maybe then it's not saying, hey, we're looking to reset and full out rebuild. But to me, if Vucevic isn't moved at the trade deadline, I think it's almost signaling that they're not moving forward with this core, right? And then that means DeRozan's probably getting traded in the offseason, potentially Zach as well. But then you're gonna probably see guys like Alex Caruso get moved as well in that sort of situation. So this trade deadline to me is gonna show me a lot of what the Bulls front office is thinking. So I'm gonna go on a limb and say that right now, if Vucevic isn't moved, I think that signals that the Bulls might be resetting, because to them, then that means that they value the cap space more than whatever they're trying to figure out in the trade, right? Because to me, that means that they tried trading Vucevic and they couldn't find anything that is helps them start off a rebuild, right, or whatever. And they're like, okay, that's not going to help us. So therefore, we'd rather just not even worry about it, just let him go for nothing, which I think is a horrible move in general. But if Vucevic doesn't move, that's going to look weird to me. I think he has to get moved for this team to start taking, looking into the next direction of whether it's retooling or whatever it is. He has to get moved to move this team forward and figure out the next core, right, for this Bulls team moving forward. So I don't know what exactly is coming, but it's going to be interesting as hell, because this Bulls front office has been extremely quiet. Apparently, the media has been trying to talk to them. They've been denied, according to what's been reported. So if that's the case, like, it's going to be interesting to see what this Bulls front office does at the trade deadline, because I think this is how we get the insight into what they're actually thinking. And again, I want to reiterate, getting Vucevic and getting DeRozan here, they're not here for the long run. They were never here for the long run, right? If they were here for the long run, DeMar DeRozan doesn't sign a 3-year contract, okay? The Bulls don't offer him a 3-year deal. They offer him more money. They offer him more years, okay? DeRozan would have been signed for a 4-year contract and probably a little bit more money too. That's the reason why I'm like, this Bulls front office isn't full out set on this specific core. And if Vucevic, again, was here for the long run, he'd have a new contract already. So I think that we're at the point now where we've gotten to, we've became a winning team last season. That was the front office goal, is to get to become a winning team. This season hasn't started out so well, but even if this Bulls team was winning in term or whatever, like, I still think that they're still looking to make some significant moves after the season. Again, and let's just say they're winning. Even after the season, when they inevitably don't win the championship, because obviously there's better teams, they're still looking to make significant moves. Hence, I still don't think Vucevic would have a contract extension at this point. So I think that a move is coming at this trade deadline. I want to know what you guys think. So whether you're watching this live, or you're watching this later through the VOD, you can comment on this. I think Vucevic is getting moved. So you guys let me know what you think about that. I'm going to be very interested to see what his market is, because this is the part where I'm very confused right now. I don't know what his market is. But here's the thing. I also don't know what DeAndre Ayton's market is. Because there's also been these talks about, DeAndre Ayton's pissed off with the Suns and all this and that, which I don't really buy much into. But anytime people start throwing him in the trade finder or doing, the trade machine, I see all these ridiculous trades that I'm just like, I don't think that's possible, or that's too little, right? I'm just going to be very interested to see what a big man like Vucevic, who's about to be unrestricted free agent, that is 32 now, is going to get. It's just, big men in today's game, we're talking about big men that don't dominate the game, like an Embiid, a Jokic, right? They're not that valuable right now, okay? There's very few of them like Vucevic that is offensive oriented in the game today, right? They're not very valuable. They're guys that just don't bring much value to the team. Okay, Jokic, he's offensive oriented, but that dude's a Hall of Famer. Embiid, he plays both sides of the floor, and I'll give Jokic a little bit of credit for playing defense too. Vooch doesn't really bring much defense at all, and his offense has regressed to the point where he's not even at all-star level, and could be part of him being the third option, right? But I also just think that his offensive skills, just to me, have kind of gone down, even though he's been the third option. Okay, so what does that bring back? I don't know if it really brings back much, but I think it would signal, hey, we're looking to at least change some things up and around the core, or end of the core to supporting cast level. There's going to be a little bit of changes to the team moving forward here, so that we're a little bit more well-rounded team and not strictly just an offensive-oriented team, which is crazy to say because the offense has sucked this season, but the Bulls' defense has actually looked all right. I think trading Vooch for a center is impossible due to the lack of talent in the league. I would agree with you on that statement, which is interesting to me because it's like, if you're going to trade Vooch, then what's the plan for center, right? And to me, then, if you trade Vooch, I've always said that Andre Drummond just slides to the starting lineup, which is interesting why that signing happened. So, if you sign Andre Drummond, you're trading Vooch, you're putting Drummond in the starting lineup. Again, he doesn't play 30-plus minutes, he plays in 25. And then you're going small in the second unit for at least the rest of this season, okay? Unless you get someone back in return, which, again, I don't see happening. So, what's then the plan for the 2023 offseason, okay? And we've kind of looked at this already, but the 2023 offseason in terms of centers isn't exactly amazing, okay? The one person that we keep looking at is Miles Turner. The Bulls will not have the money to get Miles Turner unless they trade DeRozan. So I'm looking at some like the lower tier guys here, and there's no one that kind of really sticks out. The one person that I would be very interested in is Jakob Poeltl, right? I think he'd be huge to bring in, and we'll see how much he requires in terms of money. But he might be someone that is gettable if the Bulls makes a few more moves to free up some cap space. So I'm going to bring up the Bulls cap space for next off season. To kind of just go over what we're looking at here. Which, again, the Bulls, I feel like, don't have a lot. So it's just going to be interesting to see what this Bulls team does. So, essentially $11 million in cap space. And this is if we bring nobody back from this group here, okay? This is just everyone from this group of people is just gone. Yeah. There's no way Aang gets moved, I think. I agree with you on that. What's going on, Stoppable? Good to see you. DeMar trade value going up? Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility, but I just wanted this whole thing saying that I don't think DeMar's getting moved. But yeah. Jake Britton, good to see you. I think you're new here. I could be wrong. Dale needs minutes. I would kind of agree with you on that, but it has to be spot minutes right now. Poeltl's been a Dream Bulls trade target for a minute. Also, DeMar Poeltl connection. Manlocks. Yeah, it's possible as long as we don't lowball him. So, yeah, this is the part where I'm very interested to see what exactly happens here, because the Bulls have been rumored already about Jakob Poeltl, okay? Now, if you go to the San Antonio Spurs and say, hey, we're willing to give you Nikola Vucevic for Jakob Poeltl, the San Antonio Spurs hang up the phone immediately, okay? There's no reason for them to do that. So, to me, it would be an offseason acquisition where you go and you sign Poeltl. Bulls have their mid-level exception. I think we're at the point now with Io that it does not matter about keeping the mid-level exception, because he hasn't played well enough to invoke the whole mid-level exception thing, which, again, I'll talk about later. But basically, if Io played well, the Bulls would have to keep their mid-level exception to keep Io, or would have to use their mid-level exception on Io to keep him. But I think we're at the point now with Io that he has not played well enough to get to that point. So the mid-level exception to me right now is open for the Bulls, okay? And if Jakob Poeltl is asking for $12 million, that's a possibility, I feel like. Now, he probably wants closer to like 16, so this is where things are a little bit weird. But maybe he wants a little bit less. I don't know, but the Bulls, again, if they don't make any moves, They only have $11 million in cap space, and then $11 million in the mid-level exception. Can't combine the two. So I don't know how you get Jakob Poeltl here. But that'd be kind of one of the guys that I'd be looking at here. You need to run the offense through Vuce so you get the bucket, can get buckets and bring that trade value up. I personally don't think that you can raise Vuce's trade value anymore right now. It's, to me, Vuce's trade value is in the toilet. Like, it's down the drain. It is dead because he's going to be an unrestricted free agent, and he's a center that is not defensive oriented, and he makes a big chunk of change. Like, that's not enticing for any team, right? So I think if you're the Bulls, you just want something in return at this point. So you can maybe take that asset and use it for something else, or maybe you get a Cam Reddish and you can potentially use him later. But I'm not looking for much in return. I would hope for a protected first-round pick, but I think that might be asking for a little too much at this point. So it's to me, it's going to be very odd to look at what the Bulls front office is really looking at, because I think they're kind of aware that they need they need a more defensive-oriented center at the center position. Hence, signing Andre Drummond, I don't think is something that we should look past. Not saying that Andre Drummond's going to be the starting center, just saying that they're aware of the lack of defense that Vucevic brings to the table. How much can we blame on Billy, though? I think Billy has not been good this season. I came into the season mostly as a Billy defender. I am not defending Billy Donovan at this point. There's a lot that's going on with Billy that I'm not happy with. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of it is on the players for this season in general, for not getting Vooch involved enough, I guess, but also Vooch is averaging like 17 or 18, which I think is kind of where he should be at. So I don't know exactly how much is bad by the players. Like, that kind of seems normal to me. And by the way, posting up in today's era, especially with a center that is kind of limited in his post-up game, it's not an efficient offense. That's not analytically efficient. You don't want to post up many times. Now, posting up versus a smaller guy, when you have a mismatch, that's fine. But running an offense that involves posting up someone right off the bat, it's not analytically efficient. You don't want to do that in today's era, especially when it's the low block, right? And Vooch operates on the low block. He wants those touches on the low block. So it's the right idea, in my opinion, by Billy, right, to not run everything through Vooch. But does he need to get Vooch a little bit more involved, whether that's through the pick and roll or whether that's Vooch setting a little bit more, getting Vooch a little bit, or have Vooch come off some down screens and maybe potentially get a mismatch, right? Or having him set a cross screen. Like, who knows? Maybe that's on Billy. But at the same time, it's also like you're not supposed to run an offense through someone through the low block. Because, if you think about it with Jokic, right? Jokic posts up not that often, right? He posts up usually at the high post, but that's mostly for him to pass, right? The Nuggets use Jokic as a guy at the top of the key a lot. He brings up the ball sometimes. They use him off the pick and roll. They use him off handoff situations. That's how you use a big man in today's era. You don't use him through the low block. Bulls are terrible at getting Vooch the ball when he has a mismatch every game. I think Billy got to get them to get him the ball on guards. So I agree with that statement, but then here's the thing, Jake. If there's a mismatch on Vucevic, and I'm not saying this is right, because I in my opinion, you should, if Vooch has a small guy in him, to me, you throw it to him, okay? But there's also two things at play. One, Vucevic needs to do a good job of sealing his man, which I don't think he's done a good job of this season, by the way. I think that a lot of Bulls players are hesitant to throw him the ball because we've seen him get kind of undercut by a smaller guy, and they steal the ball from him. But number two, if Vooch has a mismatch, that means there's also a mismatch somewhere else, okay? And in today's era, you're not supposed to, the first idea is, let's say, any sort of guard all-star guard has a big man on them. the first idea isn't let's throw the ball to the big man who has a small on him. The idea is there's a mismatch on our all-star guard. That's what we need to go to first. Not let's throw it down to the big man in the post down low. It's let the guard that has the mismatch with the big man on them isolate and let them take the rock and figure out how to break it down and get to the lane, right? Do we just need an athletic center to unlock the team's potential? Maybe. I think it's more just defensive-oriented center. I don't know necessarily about athletic. I would like a more athletic center, I will say that. But I don't, and again, does that help? Yes. But does that fix everything for this Bulls team? No. There's still issues with this Bulls team. Obviously, the lack of shooting is a big issue, right? Which, again, I still feel like this Bulls front office is aware of. They've gotten severely unlucky though with some of their shooting stuff that they've brought in. A.k.a. Lonzo Ball is out for who knows when. So yeah, we need to go the draft route for getting talent at center. One, Jalen Duren to fall so bad in the previous draft. So I don't know if we need to go the talent route or the draft route for center. I think it's an option for sure, but I also don't know if drafting a center is worth it at this point, right? Because I feel like people have always said that centers take a little bit longer to develop. And I don't know if the Bulls want to wait around and try to develop a young guy that's at age 19 and hope he turns into something very quickly, right? I think it's more so they're looking to add wings or guards in the draft because they're going to be guys that they can have a little bit more time to develop. With big men, it's kind of like you're thrown into the pack of wolves, and if you don't have the body yet, you get eaten alive. So I feel like they're looking more towards getting a little bit more veteran guys at the center position and not have to develop a big man, because that takes a while. At least that's what I've been told from a lot of people, is that big men take a little bit longer to develop than, perimeter-oriented players, which I think is true. Because I think that the big men, whether you're switching over from EuroLeague or Euro basketball or college basketball, G League is a little bit different, but it's a different game here in the NBA, right? The game's a little bit faster. There's a lot of things going on. It's a little bit harder to make that adjustment when a guard kind of, you already have the ball in your hands in college. You're going to have the ball in your hands here. If you're a shooter in college, you're going to be a shooter here, right? But for big men, it's like you got to learn the defense because in college you play a lot of zone. You got to learn the pick and roll coverages. There's a lot going on, and not only that, the floor is a little bit more spaced, so it's harder to know how to rotate correctly. Because in college, the floor is very, very crammed, in my opinion. So that's the reason why I'm looking at this, right, in terms of free agency, or in terms of trying to figure out who's the guy that they're going to bring in at center. Unstoppable has been a big person about Miles Turner. I would love Miles Turner on this team, but again, how does Miles Turner get here? And it looks like the Indiana Pacers are looking to keep him because they're trying to sign an extension with Miles Turner. So, in my opinion, Miles Turner's off the board right now, for at least the time being. Maybe something changes, right? But I'm looking at this list right here, and I'm trying to figure out who's someone that the Bulls could potentially get. So, to me, the person that makes sense to me is Jakob Poeltl. I just don't know how he gets here. There's got to be some sort of either trade to get him here quickly this season, which again I don't see happening, or the Bulls somehow have to clear a bunch of salary cap space because if you keep these guys around, there's not going to be enough money to sign a guy like Jakob Poeltl, in my opinion, at least, for next offseason. 3-and-D wings. For Unstoppable, you mean just in general for this Bulls team? Because, yeah, I agree with you on that. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this Bulls team does anything. It's evident that this experiment, or whatever you want to call it, with the Big Three has failed, right? So, that's the reason why I'm saying the first person that is already expiring for this Big Three is Vucevic. So he's got to get, to me, he's getting moved, right? He's the person that's going to be going. At least to start it all, right? And again, I don't see this Bulls team hitting the rebuild button. I don't see them tearing it down. So if this is the case, what's the next guy for this Bulls team at the center position? That's the part where I'm very, very interested to see what they do later. Spurs are stubborn. They aren't going to trade him unless they get something of value, for sure, right? Which is like, who's that? Like, if the Bulls are even thinking about this, again, because the Bulls have had talks about Jakob Poeltl before, right? They had talks about Jakob Poeltl last trade deadline. Nothing happened, obviously, but if this has already kind of been in the works, I'm very interested to see who they're looking at potentially moving, right? And what the Spurs really want. We've already traded with the Spurs once. They have a 2025 pick, right? So what is it that the Spurs really want? And, if we're trading, Nikola Vucevic in something, I'd be very intrigued, but I don't know if it's worth it, right? I don't know if it's worth it, especially because Jakob Poeltl could just potentially leave, right? In the offseason. What about trying to trade for James Wiseman? So I went over this before, actually. I want to let's roll this back here. So a trade right now to get anybody off from the Warriors, okay? Money-wise, at least in my opinion, none of them work, okay? So, Kuminga, Moses Moody, James Wiseman, whoever else that you're even thinking about. Like, if we're trading anybody, except for obviously Caruso, but if we're trading Vucevic, okay, I don't see how the money works out for this trade. So if you add in James Wiseman, obviously this trade doesn't work, okay? If you're the Warriors, I don't think you do this anyway, but maybe they get desperate. They've been struggling, so maybe they actually want to do this sort of trade. But then they have to add in more to get this trade through, right? Add in Dante DiVincenzo, still doesn't work, okay? And then I'll add in JaMychal Green. This still doesn't work. And they're not trading Jordan Poole. They're not trading Kevon Looney, right? Because they need size. So adding Vooch is just adding more size, and they want that. So how do you get Vooch on the Warriors roster, right? I don't see a way of this actually working out for the Warriors without giving up someone that they value right now or they value for the future. Because I'm telling you, if they're trading James Wiseman, Kuminga and Moody are off the board. Then you're not getting Wiseman and Moody. It's not going to work. So I'm looking at the other guys. Then how do you make the money work? And I just don't see a way of this working out. So I don't know. I think a James Wiseman deal is off the board for Vooch specifically. Now, if the Bulls are looking to actually trade Caruso, which, by the way, I'm not opposed to trading Caruso. I know it's kind of like, oh boy, how dare you. But if the Bulls think that, okay, we need to trade Caruso right now to maximize his value because we can get some serious return for him, I think you can find another Caruso or a guy like Caruso, maybe for even a little bit cheaper, right, than what he's being paid for right now. I don't know about exact impact, but it'd be hard to replace his entire impact, but you'd still be able to find a defensive-minded guard, hence Gary Payton II, right, like a Caruso. So let's say the Warriors are offering Caruso or want Caruso badly, and they're offering, Moses Moody. Like, to me, this is something that I'm actually very interested in. And then you'll figure out, add in Dante DiVincenzo to make the money work or something like that. Like, I'd be very interested in this deal if we also get a pick in return. Do I think the Warriors do it? Maybe not. I personally think no. But if it happens, it happens. But again, I don't know about James Wiseman. Like, this works. I don't think the Warriors are doing it. James Wiseman's potential, I don't know. I don't think he's like a bust, but he's a weird prospect. I agree, and that's the part where I'm lost, right? I don't know what James Wiseman is either, and he's struggled defensively badly this season, which I feel like then if we get him, it's like, well, we're back to having struggles defensively. He's obviously more athletic than Vooch, but like, does he have better instincts than Vooch defensively? So far this season says no. He's been bad. So you just brought up Onyeka Okongwu, so that's interesting to me, actually. because the Hawks are also another one of those teams that have sucked this season, and they're also having issues with Trae Young. They've just sent out 3 first-round picks for DeJounte Murray, so they're also desperate, right? So, I don't know how exactly you get someone like Onyeka Okongwu here, but I'll just start looking at the numbers. Start here. Onyeka Okongwu is a guy that I do like and think could fit in on this Bulls team. If the Hawks are like, yeah, we need to move on, or we need to add a little bit more firepower. But then my question is, it's like, okay, so how are the Hawks then saying, all right, we want Caruso, or do they want Vooch? Like, I don't see many people on this roster for the Bulls that fit the Atlanta Hawks, right? Like, you're not going to trade for DeRozan because you had Trae Young and DeJounte Murray already. Adding DeRozan doesn't help. It doesn't help your defense, which they've been actually okay on defense, but again, don't want to add more issues. If this is Caruso, this doesn't work either. So, this is very simple to figure out. But I just don't know how Onyeka Okongwu gets here. So it'd be very interesting to see what the Hawks would want for him. They've also, to me, in my opinion, if I'm remembering correctly, they like doubled down on Clint Capella, by the way. So if they double down on Clint Capella, then I don't know what that says about Onyeka Okongwu. Let's see. Yeah, oh no, wait, never mind. Oh, I'm wrong. Okay then. Or wait, no. Did he sign a new contract? Let's see here. Okay, yeah. So he did sign an extension. So they doubled down on Clint Capella being here. Yeah, he's about to get paid this after this season. So they're all in. So maybe Okongwu is available. I just don't know how does he get here if you're the Bulls, right? I'm not trading Caruso for Okongwu, by the way. I don't think that's something I would do. So maybe it's a Kobe White and Okongwu swap. This is interesting, right? I think if you're the Atlanta Hawks, you're looking at, okay, we need more shooting. Because, by the way, if you haven't realized, the Atlanta Hawks suck from 3-point range, and this is with Trae Young on the roster. But Trae Young's 3-point percentage has gone down the drain this season, so they may actually be interested in this. Adds in another guard that I feel like they just don't really have many guards, right? They have Young and DeJounte Murray, but after that, they don't really have many ball handlers on their team. So maybe Kobe White is the deal that happens. I wouldn't exactly be opposed to this, but I actually think Kobe White has done a little bit better. So maybe this isn't exactly worth it. But if this is the trade straight up, I think I actually would consider this heavily and might even pull the trigger. So maybe this is the deal to get Okongwu here. A guy that, how old is he now? Of course. Teams. Is Okongwu a free agent? No, he's still so he has one more year. 22? Maybe now. Would have to include a first round pick with protection. Ooh. So if the Bulls included a first round pick for Okongwu and Kobe White, I feel like that's a little bit of an overpay, right? Because at the end of the day, Okongwu is a guy that isn't a guarantee to work out. This is kind of like, taking a flyer for both ends. And, Atlanta needs shooting. Bulls need more size. You're just kind of doing a swap of potential guys to work out later. I feel like it would be more so the Bulls would have to add in like a second rounder. And the Bulls don't have many seconds. We are the asking team? Yeah, we're the asking team. I just think if they're gonna be like, we want a first, then to me it's a no deal. Like if we're, I I personally would not throw in the Portland pick, by the way. I don't think that's something that you do for this. If we're thinking later down the line for the Bulls, if it's so 2025 isn't available. The next pick that they could trade is 2027. I would be down for this. If the Atlanta Hawks were asking for a pick swap, I'd do it. So Atlanta has the right to swap draft picks for whatever year it is. It could be 2024, 2026, whatever it is. Atlanta would have the right to swap. I'd be willing to do that. Maybe that moves the needle, right? Where you do a pick swap instead of full out just giving them a pick. I know Atlanta will be desperate for picks though, so that I think is a little bit interesting too. Because if, let's say, instead of Kobe White being thrown in this, right? If the Bulls just straight up get Okongwu, and you throw in, let's just say you throw in Derrick Jones Jr. Contract instead, math doesn't check out on that, so you have to throw in someone else. But yeah, they sent a pick with Cam Reddish. I think they got a pick back for Cam Reddish. I could be wrong, but I think they got a pick back for Cam Reddish. Let me look at that. The Knicks sent Kevin Knox, 2022 first round pick via the Charlotte Hornets. So yeah, the Knicks sent a pick to Atlanta, and then the Hawks, and then the Knicks got a 2025 second round pick in return. Yeah. All right. I got an idea. Call up New Orleans Pelicans, see about trade for Jackson Hayes. So I'm not that high on Jackson Hayes personally, and it's more so like he's had some off-court issues that I'm not particularly liking, but I'm willing to look at it. I know that the front office has, I think it was this front. No, it was not this front office. It was the previous front office that was looking at Jackson Hayes. So Hayes, I don't really even think is playing at this moment. I guess he is playing actually. I thought that he wasn't getting many minutes. Jackson Hayes. Look at. I haven't actually looked at this, so this is actually news to me. So we're looking at this now. So if he's actually getting minutes now, ooh, I think it was also because Larry Nance Jr. was out too. This isn't loading. Oh, okay, he's not playing too much still. All right. Trey Murphy would dominate on the Bulls. Oh, I mean, get anybody from that Pelicans team, any of their wings, right? I love him on the Bulls roster, honestly. I mean, Herb Jones, I love him here. I would love Herb Jones here. So Jackson Hayes last season, he mostly played off the bench, 20 minutes per game, about half a steal, about a block, 9 points. Not that many rebounds for a big guy, which now he's coming off the bench, but that's not ideal. A trade for Jackson Hayes, I think it involved Kobe. Maybe a Derrick Jones Jr. and Tony. If we're willing to give up a pick, which again I wouldn't, it would be like Derrick Jones Jr., Tony Bradley. I think money would work, but something like this is interesting to me. So one of the other things that I'm also looking at is contract wise, are the Bulls getting something out of this, right? So the reason why you trade Kobe now is to, he's about to hit restricted free agency. We don't want to go through that. We don't want to pay him. So we'll get someone else, right, instead. With Jackson Hayes, it'd be the same thing where we have to potentially pay him, and I don't know if I want to go through that right off the bat when we have no clue what he is as a player, right? So he's about to enter restricted free agency at this early, or at this point of his career where he's not being played. Like, I don't know what that exactly does. Like, what does that mean, right? And what are the Bulls willing to pay him for the future? So I think that might be a little bit too big of a risk. It's definitely worth keeping tabs on it, though, because maybe the Bulls do look at Jackson Hayes as a guy as maybe the center for the future. Because if they do, then you obviously do this trade. But I don't know how they look at him, right? I don't know if they really value him that much. Nope, go for Cam. Yeah. So because to me, if you go get Cam Reddish, right, you have to pay him still. But that's a guy I'm willing to bet on because I kind of know what he is. Could they use Caruso? They definitely could. If I'm trading Alex Caruso, though, I'm not trading it for Jackson Hayes. Like, I want to trade Alex Caruso for like an okay player and also a first round pick if possible, right? I want more than just Jackson Hayes in return. Now, if you're gonna tell me you're trading Caruso for Jackson Hayes and a first round pick, you might have my attention, but I might want a little bit more, like maybe another second or something. Now that I think about it, perhaps we should think about a duo that would fit with P. Will and would work defensively as a duo. Because all the powerhouse teams work like that, or they have a generational level center. So you're talking, like for example, with the Milwaukee Bucks, right? Giannis is obviously, a damn good defender, but then he also has Brook Lopez next to him, who's one of the best shot blockers in the league, right? So yeah, it is true that the front line people, or the front core, I should say, for most teams, is typically they have a very good defensive front court, right? Cavs, Mobley, Allen, right? The Boston Celtics, they have Al Horford and Robert Williams, or they just have a lot of great defenders out there, like Grant Williams also on that team. So yeah, Cleveland, Boston, like you just said, or Trey Murphy with Hayes for Caruso. If the New Orleans Pelicans offered that for Caruso, the Bulls would be taking that immediately. I just don't think that's going to happen, personally, Jake. Like, if the Bulls got that call today, I'm saying yes and hanging up the phone and immediately just doing the transaction. That's a lot for Caruso. I just don't think that's going to happen. I just don't see that personally happening because the New Orleans Pelicans, they're all in right now on this young core, and right now Brandon Ingram is not playing many games. Like, Brandon Ingram's played 15 games this season. Like, he's not been healthy. So of course when Zion's healthy, BI isn't healthy for them. So they need a lot of wings, and they have a lot of wings obviously, but they kind of need them right now. So a guy like Trey Murphy is extremely valuable to them for the now and then for the future. Caruso and more, I guess. But who else would the Pelicans want, right? If I'm trading a Caruso and you're like, okay, I want more, who else would they want? Because if I throw a Javonte Green, for example, that's not going to move the needle, right? Herbert just seems like they're a wing for the future next to Zion. That's all I was thinking after BI, obviously. So yeah, I mean, I agree that Herb Jones is the 2 guard. But I think with Trey Murphy, they're looking at potentially having that guy, if here's the thing, Jake. So this is the way I would run the team. I don't care how many wings are on that roster or how many wings I have, right? I continue just to draft based off talent alone. And then whoever becomes the best, I keep. And right now, to me, though, with the Pelicans, they have all these guys, right? And we're all looking okay, they can't keep everybody, but it's still too early in the process to figure out, okay, who are they keeping and who are they're going to get rid of. So to me, a guy like Trey Murphy, they're we're keeping him around to see if he becomes better than Herb Jones, or maybe he even becomes better than BI, right? Because we don't want to give up on that immediately. So if I'm calling the New Orleans Pelicans for any of their wings, it has to be a very significant offer to them, like something that is incredible, because they're gonna hold on to those guys as long as possible, in my opinion. Yeah, if they are smart, they should just not even think about to trade Murphy. He is way too good. It would just be sick for us. Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah. Again, I would love Trey Murphy on this team. Would love it. I don't think I would break the Pelicans core. They are good, just like Memphis. The core is good. I agree mostly on that. Memphis is interesting to me because I do think that they need to make a move to get to that next level, because Ja started talking smack, and then they lost to the Warriors without Steph, and then they just lost to the Phoenix Suns without Devin Booker. So I think the Memphis Grizzlies need to make another move, but yeah, that core is good over in Memphis. They just, to me, they need someone else out there. But yeah, I agree that their core was built very, very well. Yeah, I personally don't think that the Pelicans are looking to really do much. To me, they have everybody that they want right now. If I'm looking to upgrade anything for the New Orleans Pelicans, it would be adding a guy like Alex Caruso. It's that they're not giving up Dyson Daniels. They're not giving up Herb Jones, and they're not giving up Trey Murphy. Like, and those would be the guys that I'd be interested in. They'd be probably calling and be like, hey, we'll give you like Kira Lewis, or we'll give you someone less than, on the lower side, right? They're not going to be giving up some of their young guys. Yeah. The best case for us to get Fred VanVleet. So, yeah, I mean, I can see Toronto potentially moving out from him. Again, Fred VanVleet is about to hit unrestricted free agency. So there is a worry with him. Okay, if you're questioning that, just to show you, Fred VanVleet is going to be an unrestricted free agent. He has a player option. He's gonna 100% decline this because he get paid more than this in his next contract. So he's declining that player option. So it would be a bit of a risk for the Bulls. But I would like a Fred VanVleet on this roster. I am a little bit worried that he is past his prime years and he's gonna struggle a little bit. But getting a guy Fred VanVleet on this roster is gonna be tough. Because I don't know which way the Raptors are going to be going, right? So if you're the Raptors, you're going to be like, if you're looking to win now and you're going to be doing this move, right? To me, it's you trade Zach, or they want Zach, or they want DeMar, right? I think if you do DeMar, not even DeMar works. So don't know how exactly this works out. Obviously, Raptors have to add more money. But if they're looking to break up the core, like they'd want someone like Patrick Williams or Kobe White or Dalen Terry, right? And I don't know if I'm willing to give that up for a guy that's about to hit unrestricted free agency. Fred VanVleet is going to be asked to do much offensively in Chicago. And I agree with that, Noel, which is why I'd be kind of interested in it. It's like, again, which way are the Raptors going, right? Are they looking to tear it down, which I don't think they're going to be looking to do that. And if they're not, then what do they want? But two, he's going to be unrestricted free agent, which is a little bit scary, right? You don't want to risk trading assets, right, for a guy that's going to hit unrestricted free agency and potentially leave. You can take up the Kyle Lowry role. I can agree with that too. So you said Vooch plus Kobe for Fred VanVleet and Khem Birch. So I think contractually this actually works. Yeah, so money works out in this situation. I just think if we offer this to the Raptors, they just say no. Straight up. They're like, no, we're not doing this. We'd have to add more. Which is like, what else do they want? And again, it matters which way they're going, right? Because they're looking to tear it down, they don't do this move. If they're looking to, retool, they'll start considering this, but then they're like, we need more. Because to me, the best player is Fred VanVleet in this trade, and Vucevic is not as good as him. So they're gonna want more in this deal. Which is, to me, is like, I'm not willing to give up much more. Like, I might be willing to give you a protected first round pick, but that's it, and I don't think that's going to be enough to move the needle. Something to consider for sure. I'm questioning if the Raptors even if they're looking to, if they're looking for more, which I think they will. I don't know what else I can give you, right? I really don't. I'm not giving you Dalen Terry in this deal. Obviously, Patrick Williams is off the table. So what else, right? They're gonna space the floor with Vooch, Pascal, and Scotty with their own roles. I'd worry a little bit about the fit, not necessarily about Vooch fitting in with the roster, more so that they still haven't addressed their three wings that they all play at the same time, right? They have Scotty, OG, and Pascal all on the court together. They all play the same damn position, and they're all clunking up the floor, right? So they're also getting rid of their only point guard in this trade, right? They get Kobe back, but he's not really a point guard, right? So it kind of messes them up even a little bit more in terms of what they're trying to figure out. Now, if they're doing this just to retool, right, and potentially look to start resetting and, change up their team, I can see that, but then they want more from this deal. This isn't enough, right? I need OG if you do a trade with Toronto. I think he's off the table. That's the issue. Imagine Pascal and the Grizzlies. I think Pascal is perfect for the Grizzlies. I think that's kind of the guy that they need. I think the only issue is that Jaren Jackson Jr. is not willing to play center, and the dude fouls ridiculously in his limited minutes that he gets because of his fouling. So I love Jaren Jackson Jr. He just needs to figure it out. And Pascal and Jaren Jackson Jr. are not playing center. Neither of them are going to play center. So this trade to me, I don't think this has worked. I don't think this works. Like, I think the Raptors are going to be like, we want more. So the first round pick, I'll kind of consider it, but I don't know how far you're willing to go for a guy that's about to hit unrestricted free agency, and could potentially just leave. Obviously, we have to re-sign him. That's not too big of an issue. We can just full out re-sign him easily. But yeah, I don't know. I don't see this working out. If I'm the Bulls, I'm doing this quickly. I do this right now. But I don't know if the Raptors do this. That'll be interesting to look at. Would you trade Alex Caruso instead of Kobe White? I'd also consider that too. But again, is that enough for Toronto? I don't know if Toronto thinks that's enough. So let's just take away Kobe and just add in Alex. Like, I don't know if Toronto thinks this is enough either. I don't think Caruso is what they need. I think they could actually value Caruso because they don't really have like a defensive-minded guard on the roster, right? I think they could use a guy like him. It's more so that it's like we need more for the now and the future. Like, Caruso's nice, but he's 28 now, 29, and he's not going to become some sort of great player suddenly has an offensive game too. So I think they'd like a Caruso. I just don't think this moves the needle enough. And if you're like, okay, well, what about adding in Kobe White? I don't think this works either, because if we're getting to this point, they're probably really looking for some even like more future assets, right? So if I'm doing this, then we take back Otto Porter Jr. instead, which I would not do. I actually don't think they trade anyone low. They're probably gonna let them figure it out. I personally don't think the Raptors are gonna be doing anything. Okay, I think the Raptors, they're gonna be looking at potentially if the one player is gonna get traded, to me it's gonna be OG Anunoby, because I think that they could get a massive haul back for OG. Now that this is if a team decides, hey, we're desperate we're going to go all in on the season. We're going to trade you 2 first-round picks or potentially more, plus some more assets to get OG Anunoby. That, to me, is the guy that is the most gettable. When it comes to Fred VanVleet, I just don't think they're going to be looking to move him because I think they're going to try to re-sign him. And they're not going to be thinking that he's going to be leaving. So I think that's their mindset. But to me, all these players that potentially could be on the market, and I'm talking about more of the core players, I don't think they're looking to move. If anybody's going to get moved, to me, it's Gary Trent Jr. That is like gettable now, right? But between Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, obviously Scotty Barnes, right? Those guys to me are just they're not getting moved. Just spat everywhere. Embarrassing. If someone's getting moved, to me it's Gary Trent Jr. And I like Gary Trent Jr. personally. I like him a lot. Great shooter, underrated defender in my opinion. But again, if you're the Bulls, like, are you really going to trade for Gary Trent Jr.? Probably not. And it's not just contractually, but it's like also where does he fit on the roster, right? So I think a trade with the Raptors is not happening. Now I have seen this trade, which I'm gonna throw out to you guys. So I have seen this here, which to me it's really odd. I don't know how this works out personally. I really don't know how this really works. But someone was like, okay, we have 3 teams in the Eastern Conference that are all performing under expectations. Okay, the Chicago Bulls, obviously, Toronto Raptors, and then the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat have sucked, right? And I kind of was the one that predicted that too. I was like, I think Miami's going to not do very well, and they've had injuries too. But you know, we've had some injuries, and Toronto's had some injuries, so I don't think there's much of a excuse for Miami. But just because all 3 of these teams look like teams that they're not gonna be willing to rebuild, right? All 3 of these teams, so the Masai Ujiri's track record has been never rebuild, and Pat Riley's track record with the Heat has never been to rebuild. Like even when the big 3 left Miami, and then Chris Bosh had to retire, and then Dwayne Wade left, the Miami Heat never hit the rebuild button. They never did. Okay, so you know Miami's never going to hit the rebuild button. You know Masai Ujiri is probably not going to hit the rebuild button. And the Bulls have draft picks going out, so there's no way they're going to hit the rebuild button, right? Or at least that's what they think. So why not just completely just blow up both these teams and just switch players just for the hell of it, okay? So in this hypothetical, it would be DeMar DeRozan is going to Toronto. So it would be basically like a homecoming story. He goes back to Toronto, and it would be a nice story to help the Toronto Raptors get out of their funk because they've been bad offensively overall. Adds more ball handling, etc., etc. Then the idea would be then you send Bam Adebayo to Chicago, and then Pascal Siakam then goes to Miami. Okay, here's your 3-team trade. And I saw this, and I was like, no way, right? There's no way in hell this happens. Okay. If you're Miami, I don't think you do this. If you're Toronto, I don't think you do this. If you're the Chicago Bulls, I think you kind of consider it, and might even do this immediately. But this isn't happening, right? There's no way that this happens. But I will be interested. I will say this though, it will be interesting to see if these 3 teams come together and form some sort of deal just to, change things up, because all 3 of them are struggling, right? If I'm looking at, for example, the Toronto Raptors, I'm like, hey, a guy like Chris Boucher, I would like him here in Chicago, right? How can we get that done? Who knows, right? Maybe it's a Kobe White, Andre Drummond type deal, okay? Maybe there's that. If I'm Toronto, I'm like, I want Victor Oladipo, because I think he could come in and be the extra ball handler that we need. Also a pretty good guy defensively. If while we're at it, give me Nikola Jovic as well. Boom. And if you're the Miami Heat, you might be looking at the Raptors, or maybe looking at the Bulls. Like if you look at the Bulls, it's like, I want Alex Caruso, right? Or if you look at the Raptors, you're like, hey, what about Khem Birch? Because we don't really have much of a backup center. So maybe there's some stuff that kind of goes on. But I don't know. Who knows? It'll be interesting to see these three teams because these three teams, they all got to do something, right? At the end of the day, they got to do something to fix their issues. I don't think it's that drastic of a trade that I just drew up or showed you guys, but something needs to change with these three teams. So there's that. Three-team trade: Hawks, Bulls, Raptors. Hawks get Vooch, Bulls get Fred, Raptors get Nyeka Okongwu and Bogdanovic. Let's see. So this is also. I'm gonna already say this doesn't happen. So you're saying that the Hawks get Nikola Vucevic, then Bogdanovic goes to Toronto. You get the Bulls. Bulls get Fred VanVleet, and then Atlanta trades Nyeka Okongwu to Toronto. Wait. Oh. All right. I think I did that right. And then, so for this, let's just say we'll trade Gary Trent Jr. to Atlanta. That. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like a Precious Achua or something, or I don't know. Otto Porter. I actually don't know how this works. Might be a Chris Boucher thing, but I don't know. Maybe. I feel like if you're Atlanta, you don't do this though because you got Clint Capella. So why would you get Vooch? Other two teams where if Toronto is getting Bogdanovic, I could see that happening. I'm gonna reload this, by the way. Yeah, maybe. I'll pull it up again here, but I could potentially see that working out. I'd have to really dig into the details though. I just don't. I think the biggest issue is that Atlanta is not going to accept this, in my opinion. So then you trade Toronto. Bulls get Fred VanVleet. Then trade Okongwu to well. So again, if you're the Bulls, I think you do it. If you're Toronto, I think you actually consider this because they need shooting desperately, and they get Okongwu as young talent, and then Bogdanovic is a guy that is going to be there next season. I just think if you're Atlanta, you just don't do this because it's like why would we trade this? Why would we do this trade? Because Vucevic is here and we have Clint Capella. But yeah, maybe something else can get worked out. Yeah. Extending DeJounte, they can extend DeJounte without doing anything. Like they don't need to move money. Now, if you're gonna say like tax limit, which I saw you just say there, like maybe, but I don't really see that being too much of an issue for them. So if we go to Atlanta here, so again, DeJounte Murray's not gonna be a free agent until this offseason, okay? We're talking about this offseason, right? We're talking about 2024. So like they have time. And right now, if we're looking at this, it's like they still have money before hitting the luxury tax. Like they have $47 million before hitting the luxury tax with this roster. So to me, they're probably looking to move John Collins or someone like that. And getting like a power forward in return. But guy like Vucevic, I don't think it works that well. So I want to move on to one other thing, and then I want to bring it back over to Vucevic. Okay, so this is one of the ideas. They have bird. So yeah, the Atlanta Hawks have DeJounte Murray's bird rights. When you trade for a player, you get their bird rights from whatever the previous team had. So the Atlanta Hawks, because they traded for DeJounte, they have his bird rights, so they can do whatever to re-sign him. Go over the cap, go into salary. They can do it all. So yeah, they have his bird rights. So here's the one thing I want to pull up here to potentially discuss like DeMar DeRozan getting traded this season. Which I started this video or started this stream saying that I don't think DeMar DeRozan is getting moved. I think the Bulls have basically fully committed to Zach LaVine for obviously 5 years, and DeMar DeRozan to me is committed. They're committing to him for this season and then potentially next season as well. But I talked about the Phoenix Suns potentially trading for DeMar DeRozan on this channel before, and then we got news today that the Phoenix Suns are going to be missing Devin Booker for the next 4 weeks. Okay, and we know that the Phoenix Suns, they're going to be desperate right now because Chris Paul is not getting any younger. He's going to be age 38 during the playoffs. Obviously, they just re-signed DeAndre Ayton, but if they're trying to win with this core that they have with Chris Paul and Devin Booker leading the way and then DeAndre Ayton also there, they might get desperate. And they're like, hey, we need to do a move. And if you're not aware of the standings currently, Phoenix Suns, they're 5th right now. And the Sacramento Kings and Dallas Mavericks, Portland Trailblazers, Utah Jazz, and Golden State Warriors are legit right on their heels. Okay? We're talking about a difference between 5 games between 1st and 10th place. And the difference between 5th and 10th is 2 games. So Phoenix loses 2 games, Golden State wins 2 games, all of a sudden they're tied. Okay? The Phoenix Suns are without Devin Booker for 4 weeks. And we've seen how they've looked without Devin Booker, right? They have not looked great. And the trade deadline is 6 weeks away. Around 6 weeks away, okay? This is where, to me, things get interesting, right? And I brought up this trade on this channel before. The Phoenix Suns, they understand that Chris Paul's not getting any younger. They have to potentially win it all this season to maximize what they want to do. They need scoring, right? They do not have a 20-point per game scorer except for Devin Booker. Okay, DeAndre Ayton's averaging 18 or 17. Chris Paul around 14 or whatever it is, right? They don't have enough firepower right now with Devin Booker on the bench. Cam Johnson's also out, right? So they're missing some big scorers, and then Jake Crowder's just nowhere to be found, okay? So maybe looking at the Bulls like, hey, all right, we need someone to get us through this Devin Booker stretch. Because remember, Devin Booker is being reevaluated in 4 weeks. He's not coming back in 4 weeks, okay? He's missing at least 4 weeks. It's not guaranteed he's coming back in 4 weeks. He might miss 6 weeks. So how do the Phoenix Suns stay afloat when Devin Booker is gone, right? And this is more so if like things start to go bad, in the next 2 weeks or so for the Phoenix Suns. So if this happens, I brought up this trade here, and it mostly for the Bulls. You get Cam Johnson. That this is kind of like the big piece, right, or the young piece that they'd be interested in. I like Cam Johnson. He is 26. He's on the older side, but I like him as a player, a very good shooter. He's not the greatest defender, but can play many positions, and I think he can become a pretty good defender. But the biggest thing for me with Cam Johnson is obviously his shooting, and he's gotten better every single season. Very evident. So, Cam Johnson, that'd be the main guy in this trade, right? Bulls will take back Jay Crowder. Who knows if he'll play or not? I personally do not care. He'll be a free agent after this season. If he plays, great. If he doesn't, who cares? But he's mostly just a salary filler for this trade. Then, to make this trade work, you'd add in Landry Shamet, who has been up and down this season for the Phoenix Suns, but Shamet's an overall decent player. He's had some rough moments this season for sure, but he's all right. And he's also another shooter to help with this Bulls' lack of shooting. He's a good shooter. So this would be the players being moved in this sort of deal. Suns, now that they're desperate, they add in 2 first-round picks, maybe another pick swap, maybe 3 first-round picks, who knows. We're the Bulls. Do you accept this? Right? And to me, if the Phoenix Suns are giving up 3 first-round picks, whether that's two first-round picks and a pick swap, or it's 3 first-round picks and then, the last pick that they give up is protected, I don't know if I can decline this, right? Like, this might be too much to be like no for DeMar DeRozan. This does not signal rebuild in my opinion, because a guy Cam Johnson is 26, but he's definitely a guy that I'm looking at as a guy that can get better still and help out very quickly. If you're not aware of Cam Johnson and his numbers, he is unfortunately injured, but again, he is age 26. But you look at what he's done in his career, phenomenal shooter throughout his entire career, and he just, to me, just gets better so far every single season. Yes, he has his limitations, but he's a guy that I can trust to get better. So he's averaging 13 points per game now. I expect it to go up a little bit. So I'd be interested to see if the Bulls front office has offered this, because I think there's a very big chance of this potentially being offered to the Bulls right now. What do the Bulls say? Again, you have to add in picks. I can't add in picks in this in Spot Track, but it would at bare minimum be at least 2 first-round picks. But if the Phoenix Suns give up 3, that to me is very, very interesting, and I might have to pull the trigger on this. Obviously, it'd be tough, but this is a lot. It's a lot of assets to get for DeMar DeRozan. I mean, it's a lot. I think I would do it if it was Mikal Bridges. I would 100% do this if this was Mikal Bridges, right? But that's not happening, right? The Phoenix Suns, if they're looking to win now, they're not giving up Mikal Bridges. That's a guy that needs to be on the roster if they're going to pair DeMar DeRozan with Devin Booker and CP3, right? They have to have Mikal Bridges there. He's not getting traded. He's not going anywhere. Mikal Bridges is there to stay. And I'd be shocked as hell if Phoenix Suns moved him. So he's off the table, right? This, to me, would be the deal. Okay? And this, to me, is extremely intriguing if you get 3 first-round picks. If it's 2, I might be like, not sure. But if it's 3, that's where I'm like, maybe. Yeah. I value DeMar a bit more, but the picks are intriguing. But the issue is we know that that team is stacked. Sure, I know that this team is stacked, but I also am aware that if I'm getting 3 first-round picks in this deal, okay, right, it would be obviously for this season, 1, but then it would be for 2025 and 2027, okay? Like, I'm not talking about pick swaps. I'm talking about I'm getting the picks, okay? This Phoenix Suns team in 2025, I can't guarantee them being that great of a team. I think they'll be pretty good still, but CP3 at that age is going to be in his 40s, so who knows what he's going to be. DeMar DeRozan is not geared to re-sign there in 2025. He's, his contract's already expired at that point. 2027, I have no clue what this Phoenix Suns team looks like. So, to me, I see what you're saying there, Noel. It's like, well, the pick should be 20 to 30 range. It may be 20 to 30 range for the 2023 pick, but 2025, 2027, I can't guarantee that. It could be lower, right? So, that to me, it's like, that's a lot of assets. And here's the thing. Maybe it's not we keep those picks. Maybe it's we use those picks for something else, too. Because the Bulls, obviously, they're going to be looking to reload on some of these assets that they've spent. Yeah. Booker's locked up for 4 years. Yeah, Booker resigned. But just because, hell, look at what's happened to the Bulls this season, right? Just because that they've locked up somebody, Zach, for 5 seasons, that doesn't mean that they're going to be great, right? That doesn't mean they're going to be full out 100%. Yeah, they're going to be good for the next 4 seasons. We've seen things happen. Players get injured. At least a lot of things happen. DeAndre Ayton could ask out. CP3 is going to be age 40. 40-something, right? So that's where I think it's intriguing. Not saying that this is going to happen. Not saying that I'm reporting anything or anything like that. Obviously, I don't have inside sources. I'm just saying that this potentially could happen, where the Phoenix Suns are getting desperate and they're like, we want someone to come in and at least hold down the fort while Booker is gone. And then once Booker gets back, we have another 20 point per game scorer and DeMar DeRozan on the roster. just be on the lookout for this. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. Is if once the trade talks really start to go up, especially when we hit the new year, this is the type of deal that I think people are going to start throwing around. And I don't know if this is going to be discussed or not, but I think there's a good chance it could be discussed. So, yeah, we'll see what the Bulls do. And we'll see what is then reported on. Because, again, if it's 2 first-round picks, I'm not doing 2 first-round picks. I think you might be able to get a little bit more for Debo. But if it's 3 first-round picks, whoo, yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. Who knows? I might pull it. I might pull the trigger on it. Now, when it comes to Vucevic, now that we're done with that talk, because I wanted to talk about this, because I do think that this is something that we have to be watchful of, because the Phoenix Suns, again, they're going to be desperate here. We'll see what they do. If I'm looking at other teams potentially to trade for Vucevic, okay, I'm personally kind of lost to figure out, like, all right, who would want Vucevic, right? Out west, there's not a team, in my opinion, that would want him. The only team that I can even kind of fathom would be the Grizzlies, but they're not trading much for Vucevic in return. They have Steven Adams already there anyway, so I don't really see them doing that. Sacramento Kings, I do know that Domantas Sabonis has broken his hand, but has a hand injury, excuse me, not 100% broken, but he has a hand injury, and maybe they want to look at potentially adding in more, but again, why would you? I don't think the Phoenix Suns the Sacramento Kings are going to be looking to, trade for Vucevic when Sabonis is still playing. Mavericks is the one team that people have discussed, but to me, Christian Wood is better than Vooch, and they already have him. The Portland Trailblazers have Jusuf Nurkic. It will be interesting to see if they keep him or not. We'll see. But again, don't see it. The Golden State Warriors don't have a center, but we talked about contract-wise, it's so hard to make that deal. Obviously, Minnesota Timberwolves have 2 centers playing together, and it's not working out. So there's not many teams out west that make sense to me. The Utah Jazz, I don't see them looking to make a win-now move for Vucevic, obviously, because they want to hit the rebuild button, but their tankathon has gotten them to 19-8 for some reason. So I don't know what they're doing. When it comes to out east, Boston, they're set. They have Robert Williams. Brooklyn, they have Nick Claxton, and they're playing well under Jacque Vaughn, which I want to talk about in a little bit here. Milwaukee has Brook Lopez. That's not getting changed. Cleveland, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. 76ers Embiid. Miami Heat, Bam. The one team to me that makes sense is the New York Knicks. But would they actually make the move? Atlanta, Clint Capella. Toronto Raptors, maybe. I could kind of see an argument for it. Washington, they have Kristaps Porzingis. But I'm just going to keep coming back to this deal here because I just kind of think that New York is looking to just do something because they won however many straight that they won, 6 straight, and then they lost now 4 straight. And thanks to Luka Doncic, their losing streak continues or whatever. This trade right here, to me, is the one thing that I could see happening at this deadline where Vucevic gets traded for a little bit more value than we thought. Where it's not just going to be a salary filler and some seconds or a salary filler and a protected first or a very heavily protected first, right? Or maybe it's just some okay players for Vucevic in return. But to me, if we're actually be getting something valuable in return, it'd be doing this trade right here because the New York Knicks, they do not value Evan Fournier at all. He's getting paid $18 million to sit on the bench. And Cam Reddish is also not playing anymore because Tibbs has decided to bench him. So these are 2 guys that they're like, hey, we do not care about these 2. And we, right now, yes, we may have 3 centers on our roster in Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, and Jericho Sims. But we want an upgrade at center right now because Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, they're carrying a heavy load. and we need more offensive firepower. So that'd be the only reason why they do it. Again, who knows if they do it, but this to me could happen. Where the New York Knicks, they're like, hey, we at least get a playable player in return. If you're the Bulls, it's like, hey, we're getting Cam Reddish in return. And in my eyes, Vucevic is already gone come the offseason, so you want to get value for him in return anyway. So you do this, you get Cam Reddish, who I think has promise. I think can fit on this Bulls roster very, very effectively. Obviously, you have to re-sign him. Evan Fournier gets taken on, right? His money is then going to be on the books for next season too. But that's also a guy that I'm like, all right, he's a shooter, he's a veteran. Who knows, right? But I'm fine with taking on the salary filler in Evan Fournier if this is what it ends up being. I'd take Grimes here quickly instead of Cam. So to me, Quentin Grimes, in my opinion, is off the table. They're valuing Quentin Grimes highly. He's starting. He's having some good games. To me, he's off the books. Like, there's no way that they're trading Quentin Grimes. Okay. Now, if it's Emmanuel Quickly that you want, I could be talked into this too. I could see this, right? But to me, it's like I'm looking at the players that they're not playing, right? They're not playing Cam Reddish. So to me, that they value him less. They play Quickly. It may be limited minutes, but they play him. So I think it'd be a little bit harder to make this sort of deal, especially because Quickly is under team control. With Cam Reddish, he's not exactly under team control. So that's the reason why I feel like you can get Cam much easier. But Quickly, I could be talked into this. I just don't know if the Knicks could be talked into this. So, yeah. Something to consider. This would be the team I'd watch. I'm searching through my brain right now about Toronto because Noel has been bringing up Toronto, and we talked about Toronto having some issues, and maybe Vucevic should come in and help them out a little bit because it is true. Toronto's playing some weird lineups out there. Christian Coloco is getting some crazy minutes. Let's just take a look at the Toronto Raptors for a second here because they've definitely had some weird lineups out there that are just kind of like very forward heavy and don't really have a center. Chris Boucher all of a sudden is not playing for them, right? They're playing a lot of Juancho Hernan-Gomez too. It's like I don't know what's happening out there in Toronto, but Nick Nurse is weird with his lineups. I'm interested to see what. Let's just look at their last game, and they're missing players too. But let's just look at their last game that they played against the Clippers here. So against the Clippers, they started Juancho Hernan-Gomez at the center position. Fred VanVleet, Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, and OG Anunoby at the other positions. Which again, I keep saying this right here is where things are bad for them because they have 4 or 3 forwards all playing at the same time, trying to figure it out. Gary Trent Jr. is coming off the bench, right? So it's like they don't really have a center on their roster that they could use effectively or depend on, right? Juancho Hernan-Gomez, he's an okay player, but can't depend on him fully. Christian Coloco, again, can't really fully depend on him. Chris Boucher played 9 minutes in the last game, okay? He's not playing a lot. Khem Birch is someone that they don't really play a lot as well, as you can see here. So maybe they can be talked into making a trade with the Bulls where they take on Nikola Vucevic, okay? In this sort of deal, I'm not exactly looking for too much in return. One person I like, and I don't know how much they value him, but I would like Precious Achiuwa. They got him, and to me, he kind of fits in the Toronto Raptors system immediately. So that to me could potentially work out. The thing is though, is that how else do you make up the money? The obvious person would be Gary Trent Jr. I don't know how much they value him though. I feel like they would say no to this deal. But maybe it's Chris Boucher. The thing is that Chris Boucher can't be traded until January 15th, which, you know, that can be lifted. But to make the money work, I think you'd have to be Chris Boucher and Malachi Flynn sent over to Toronto, or sent over to the Bulls, which then it's like the Bulls have to cut some guys, which I don't know or sorry, yeah, the Bulls have to cut some guys, which I don't know how that all works out, and the Bulls will be in the tax at that point. So yeah, no, you keep saying that you think Sky should be the PG. I don't think they think that Sky should be the point guard. Uh, I think that they're like, no, we want to have Scotty play the forward position, and they're looking for a new point guard. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. So if we're going off what you're saying, right? I if they actually believe that they think that Scotty should be the point guard and Fred VanVleet should just get moved and they should move on from him, then this deal could potentially happen. Like, I'm not like I could see it, right? I could see this deal being made. Both are going to be unrestricted free agents coming this offseason. Both going to be looking for new contracts, right? And the Raptors, they hella need a center, and the Bulls, they obviously need a point guard. I could see it, but I think the Bulls have to give a little bit more. But if that's the case, yeah, I can see it. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think that they value having Scotty Barnes play the forward, and they're just looking for a new point guard. And so this helps their center position, but doesn't help their point guard position. So that's the reason why I keep saying, like, you trade Vooch for a guy like Precious Achiuwa, who I don't know how much they value him. And then if they just don't value Chris Boucher, I'll take on that money to get Precious on this team. Which, by the way, Chris Boucher is not a bad player. Like, this is a guy that I actually think is a pretty decent player overall. Had a bad year, but I personally think he's a pretty decent player. Yeah. Even the shooting guard free agent market this year is bad. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, man. Like, the free agent market is just overall, it's not going to be good, okay? Westbrook, don't know how much what's going to happen with him. James Harden's re-signing with Philly, okay? That whole Rockets story that came out by Woj, it's literally just a play to make sure that James Harden gets paid the max when he goes back to Philly, okay? Kyrie, who knows, right? D'Angelo Russell, I think, is re-signing. Fred VanVleet, I think the Raptors are probably going to look to bring him back, okay? Then, obviously, we got other people here, which we'll see. Gary Trent Jr. is just the one that who knows what they're going to really do with him. Again, I personally like him. I think he's going to opt out of this deal, though, and potentially look to move on. So, he might get traded. Yeah, the market overall is it's not the best, right? Malik Beasley's staying there. Terrence Ross is older. Josh Hart is probably picking up that option. Josh Richardson's not getting paid that much, and why would you want him? Dylan Brooks is re-signing. Like, there's not a lot out there, yeah, for sure. So, who knows, man? I don't know what Toronto is exactly thinking, and the point guard market for them is also not good. So, that's the reason why I think that they value Fred VanVleet and are looking to do everything in their power to re-sign Fred VanVleet, which I'll have to start looking around at, like, you know, some of the rumors with them. Because I have not heard anything that has pointed out to me that Fred VanVleet is looking to sign a contract extension with them. Nor have I heard that the Raptors are looking to re-sign him, right? So I don't know if he wants to go back, and I don't know if the Raptors want him back. So yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. Because if that's the case, Noel, like if this is true, like let's just say Fred VanVleet actually wants out, right? If that's the case, then that sort of trade of Vooch for Fred VanVleet, that becomes a possibility. But if Fred VanVleet doesn't want out, then I don't see that trade happening, right? So there's just a lot of variables at play that have to go the Bulls' way for that move to work. And I think a guy like Fred VanVleet would help this roster tremendously. And I'd immediately re-sign him when he gets here. Yeah. Josh Hart is undervalued right now. He for sure is. I just think that he's just going to go back on that player option for $12 million and then test the market again later on. Wouldn't hurt for him to do it. Maybe it does hurt for him. I just don't know if he's going to. We'll see. But again, why would Toronto want him? They also don't have the money for him. Now, that's also where things are interesting to me because it's like the Toronto Raptors, they're they're also one of those teams that I'm like, I don't know what they're doing, right? Which is why we're kind of looking at Toronto, Miami, Knicks, right? Some of these teams that I'm like, what are they actually going to be up to? Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, they're in the luxury. No, they're not. Where are they? Where are they currently at? So they're not at the luxury tax yet. They're very close. Okay. Now for next season, though, this is where I think things get really interesting because they're going to be at 151, which is going to be close to the luxury tax, but they have to re-sign some guys. Fred VanVleet, right? Gary Trent Jr., right? They have to re-sign some guys. So, yeah, who knows? Maybe they're looking to shed some salary. They free up $30 million next year for a shooting guard. They don't free up any money. So next, let's just say, because again, Fred VanVleet is looked at to decline his player option. Okay, so if you take away Fred VanVleet's $22 million, right? They're sitting at 151. You take away 20, right? You're at 131. The salary cap is at 134 projected. Okay, not guaranteed, projected. You get rid of all these cap holes, it adds another 10, maybe. It's not that much money. Okay, we're looking at maybe $13 million for them potentially, right? But their practical cap space that they could have is they're not going to have cap space, right? Maybe like as well, but yeah, same thing though. It's not going to be that much because they're already projected to lose him, right? So, all right, 18 million, 22 million. So we're looking at what is that, 40 million? So then they can get down to around. So if it's 110, so they'll have 24 million. I feel like that's not the best use of your money, right? Because then it's like you might as well just keep those two guys, re-sign those two, because then you get to keep the money of going over the salary cap. Like it's not like they're adding, like if you're just gonna free up $24 million, you're losing Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent, and bringing up $24 million to bring in one player. That doesn't sound like that doesn't sound correct, right? You wouldn't do that, right? Because that $24 million player is probably not gonna, bring more to the table than giving up Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr., right? Now, here's the thing. Let's say if they're looking to, get more cap space, like I'll take Chris Boucher's money, right? So Fred VanVleet's gone, Gary Trent Jr.'s gone, Chris Boucher's gone. Yeah, now all of a sudden you're looking at potentially $30+ million in salary cap that you can go after a top free agent guy or a very good free agent guy, and that could be a significant change. So yeah, maybe that's the way. So who knows? Maybe you're right, Noel. Maybe you're actually right about this, where they'll be, okay, we want something in return for Fred VanVleet. We're not re-signing him, so we'll trade him for Vooch now. We'll also get something back in return from the Bulls, whether it's a pick or another player. And then we're going to look to move some of these other guys too. Like Thaddeus Young is going to go off. Chris Boucher will get off the books to free up a little bit more money, and then we'll have more cap space to work with moving forward. I could see that potentially working out. But again, I'm not here to tell what the Toronto Raptors are going to be doing. I don't know what they're going to be doing. So yeah, there's definitely a world where this works. It just has to fall into place. And again, I don't know what the Toronto Raptors are looking at, but I hope they can continue to struggle, because I think then they're going to be more willing to trade off some of their guys. Obviously not Pascal, but Freddie then might become more available if things continue in the wrong direction. Toronto's a weird team. Oh yeah, it's weird with Toronto because I don't like we know that Masai Ujiri is not looking to rebuild. Like if he's gonna make a move, it's to retool. Okay. And again, I don't think retooling is a bad thing. I think the Bulls should retool. I don't think they should full out strip it all down and hit the rebuild button when they don't have their picks full control of their picks in the future. But I just don't know when Masai Ujiri is going to do that retooling, right? Because he's had this team here for a while, right? And he likes these guys, right? They won the championship with Van Fleet, with Siakam, with OG, with Chris Boucher, right? So I just don't know if he's going to be willing to let go of these guys. But we'll see. We'll see if that happens. Would you trade Zach and 3 picks for Pascal? Not 3 picks. I'd trade probably 2 picks, maybe. But it would have to be like more like the second pick be like a pick swap or something. I would not trade 3 picks for Pascal, considering the Bulls' situation with their lack of picks, right? Because to me, that's like the final move if you're trading Zach plus 3 first-round picks for Pascal Siakam. Which, by the way, I think that's a severe overpay, right? If I'm trading Zach for Pascal, then I'm looking to only add a little bit more to get to match the value, right? I'm not looking to add 3 first-round picks to, match that value because that's a severe overpay. But if it's Zach, 2 first-round picks, and maybe the second one's a pick swap, I would consider it because the Bulls need more than the picks that they be given up in that scenario where they give up their 3 first-round picks, right? If they give up 3 first-round picks plus Zach for Pascal Siakam, how do you build the rest of the roster, right? There's nothing left to build the rest of the roster. You like something that would be required for convincing them? Oh, for sure, yeah. And that's the reason why I'm like, there's no way they're trading Pascal because no one's going to do that, right? Pascal's a good number 1 option. Oh yeah, I think he would be the number 1 option for this Bulls team. Yeah, I think Pascal would be a phenomenal number 1 option. Which here's what I keep saying, and this is the reason why again, I don't think the Bulls should look to say, hey, let's full out rebuild. Okay. Let me go back here. So, again, 2024. I know this is a pipe dream, but to me, it's like this is how the Bulls have to think, right? This is right now with the Bulls 2024 offseason, okay? This is with Zach LaVine's max contract, with Lonzo Ball's dead $20 million in money, which, again, I just don't think Lonzo Ball's coming back, okay? Patrick Williams is also a restricted free agent this offseason, but don't worry about that, okay? Io would be resigned to at max $10 million, so most likely less than that. So this is with LaVine, Ball, Caruso, Terry, Patrick or Io DeSumo re-signed, and P. Will heading in restricted free agency, which then again we can use bird rights to re-sign them. Okay. If the Bulls wanted to, they could go after Pascal Siakam in free agency for 2024. Okay. And I'm actually getting closer and closer to being convinced that, again, if you want to look, 2024, Pascal, he's age 30, but I don't care. I want him. Okay. I'm, in my opinion, being convinced more and more that if the Toronto Raptors don't figure out a way to re-sign Pascal to a contract extension, he's testing his market. Okay, he's looking to go into free agency and see the offers that he's going to be getting offered. Okay, because the Toronto Raptors might not want to full out give him that supermax deal that he might be looking for. Okay, so if that's the case, then he might be like, all right, I'm going through free agency then. So if you're not willing to pay me the super max that he might be looking for, I'm testing free agency. So I'm actually being more and more convinced that this is actually heading this way. So Noel, you said I doubt Pascal leaves Toronto willingly. To me, I thought I was 2 weeks ago. If you asked me, is Pascal leaving Toronto? I'd be like, no way in hell he's leaving Toronto. But with how Nick Nurse has recently been playing his players, which is like, if you look at the minutes per game leaders, like, it is ridiculous how much the Toronto Raptors are being played. Okay, OG Anunoby 37 minutes per game, Pascal Siakam 36.8, Fred VanVleet 36.7. Like, they're high on this list, right? So maybe there's something going on there where there's issues with the coaching right now with Nick Nurse currently. The Toronto Raptors don't want to pay him the supermax, okay? And Pascal, if this starts declining, in Toronto, which again we're seeing bad stuff happening in Toronto right now, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better. And who knows, maybe Scotty Barnes is, on the come up and looking to take over that, may not being the main guy in Toronto. I can see Pascal being like, I'm out of Toronto. I want to go somewhere else where I think I can win in a better situation and not waiting on development for Scotty Barnes. And rightfully then the number one option, right? Again, it's a pipe dream, okay? But this is the type of stuff where I'm like, the Bulls can't rebuild because this is a possibility, right? The Bulls have $75 million in cap space this offseason where Pascal Siakam is a free agent, okay? And it's not just him that I'm looking at, by the way, but if they want to be on Pascal, they can't be like, we're rebuilding, right? And let me tell you, Pascal Siakam and a Zach LaVine-led team, I think, is at least the start of the winning team that AK Mark Eversley would look at. And by the way, Mark Eversley was in Toronto, right? So I'm just saying that there's that possibility. If Pascal's forcing his way out, I could see Zach for Pascal happening. Again, if that's gonna happen, where Pascal's forcing his way out, I would trade Zach for Pascal. But if you're Toronto, if Pascal's looking to get out, I don't know if they want Zach in return. I think they want younger players and looking to full out rebuild, right? But it may not be, Pascal asking to get out before he hits free agency, right? He may just want out when it comes for him to being a free agent, right? Whenever that happens, right? Where contract negotiations don't go as well, he plays out the rest of the season, seeing how the Toronto Raptors play. Things don't work out too well. He'd be like, all right, I'm testing my market, right? So, can you imagine a team that is Pascal Siakam's your number one, Zach LaVine's your number two, Pascal will be age 30, Zach's age 29. Figure out the rest. I don't care. You move Patrick Williams to the 3. Figure out, hopefully Lonzo Ball's healthy. But that's a team, right? That's one hell of a team. So, it's just something to keep in mind. Again, he's not the only guy that I'm looking at. Jaylen Brown is someone that I don't think is going to leave Boston, but for him to get his max contract, he has to test free agency, okay? He has to go through free agency. He is not signing an extension in Boston because if he tries to sign an extension, he's limited to 175% of what he gets already, okay? Which is not max money. So he has to test free agency. So the Bulls have a chance with him. Fred VanVleet, if he picks up his player option for next season, which again, I don't think is going to happen. Sabonis will be a guy that I'll also be looking at. But if those guys fail, to me, the person I'm looking at is DeJounte Murray, because he's also another guy that he has to go through free agency to get his max money, right? He has to. He just straight up has to. I think Pascal's a true definition of a 3. You mean a small forward or a number 3 option? Small forward. Okay. In my opinion, Pascal is a 4. And then I would move Patrick Williams if this happens, right? If somehow the Bulls they got Pascal, you'd move Patrick Williams to the 3, and then you figure it out from there. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. They're both playing forward. Figure it out, right? Doesn't matter. He plays forward, so whatever P-Will has to do, he'll do then. But that's enticing. But anyway, there are guys in this free agency class when the Bulls have cap space that they have to go through free agency to get their max money, right? DeJounte Murray, you're not going to see DeJounte Murray sign an extension in Atlanta because he is not getting paid that much money, and if he tries to sign an extension there, it's only 175% of his previous contract, right? Which he's getting paid somewhere like close to $20 million, right? So for him to get his close to $40 million, he has to go through free agency, right? So I just won't be shocked to see the Bulls looking to get DeJounte if they have the money, right? Which means you're not re-signing DeRozan, you don't re-sign Vooch, and obviously then this upcoming offseason you don't sign anybody, right? Or you don't add money onto the books. I just can see that this Bulls front office is going to be in the ear of these big free agents that are on their way, right? And by the way, they're all unrestricted. So it's not like we have to worry about any restrictions, right? No restricted free agents that I'm talking about right now. So it's just something to keep in mind with this sort of stuff, where I'm like, hey, like there's potential of this happening, and I think it's worth noting. And when the Bulls are looking at working towards their future, right? I've said that I think Zach is here to stay. Now maybe Zach's here until then he gets traded for the superstar, but if they're keeping Zach, but they're not committed to DeRozan, they're not committed to Vooch. They're looking at adding other guys. And to make the new core that they're going to be moving forward with, I think this is the start of the new core, right? 2024. Where DeRozan's expired, Vooch is gone, probably already a year past Vooch being gone. And you're moving into the territory where Patrick Williams is starting to have he's starting to move up, right? He's starting to grow. He's starting to reach his potential or maximize his potential. And we got some of the other younger draft picks in Io and Dalen Terry also becoming better players, right? Now we're looking at the new core, where Zach's in the middle of his new contract and we have new players here to take us to the next level, right? It's still the same. People is still 21. Yeah. So, like, maybe the front office isn't looking at that, but to me, this is what I think they're looking at, right? At the very least, what this front office has shown me is that if they see a player's available, they're going to get him. They're going to do what they can to get him. Or I should be more specific, if they see a player is available and they like him, they're going to try to get him. Right? So, Lonzo Ball, restricted free agent, they got him. DeMar DeRozan, unrestricted free agent, they had no cap space, they got him. Okay? To me, that shows them being aggressive in the free agent market. And again, this is just going off of their previous moves that we've seen so far, right? Now you're going to be like, well, Duncan, they didn't do anything this past offseason. They have no cap space, okay? So that to me, that goes out the window, right? They had no cap space. They have also very few trade assets, so you're not going to pull off a sign and trade like you did in the previous offseason. This offseason, they have a crap ton of cap space. They have $75 million in cap space, potentially more. They're going to be looking to go after these top free agents that we're looking at right here. And again, I'm not talking about Klay Thompson or Tobias Harris or Chris Middleton. I'm looking at Pascal. I'm looking at Jaylen Brown. Again, maybe those two guys don't come here. Maybe they re-sign with their two teams. But there's going to be guys available. And I want them in getting meetings with them and making a serious offer for them, doing everything that they can to convince them to come here. And maybe it doesn't work out. Who cares if it doesn't work out? You need to try. Because it's evident, in my opinion, that they're thinking with P. Will, like they're all in on P. Will, by the way, that when he starts to get into his actual, or start reaching his potential, that Zach's going to be here, still in his prime years. P. Will's going to be entering his early prime years. Someone else has to be here then to maximize that talent, right? And then they're going to have a long period of time of where they're competitive, right? Where they're not going to have those years of resetting or those years of potentially what we saw with the roster early on, where they just completely scrapped the roster and brought back only 2 players. They're not going to have those years anymore, right? They're going to have guys that are going to be here for a long time and here to come, and who knows for how long, especially with P. Will. I don't know how long he's going to be here. But I can see P. Will being here for a very long time, especially if he turns out to be what we think he can be. So that to me is like, in my head, I'm like trying to get on their timeline. And so adding in a free agent from this class that I'm looking at, and again, I'm looking at the guys that are 30 years or younger, it fits that timeline, right? It fits in exactly what they're thinking. Because DeMar DeRozan at this point is 35 years old. Vooch, gone, right? He's not going to be here anymore. But some of these other guys that are available, when you have cap space, they fit in perfectly, right? They fit in exactly with what you want to do. So, again, I'm not a mind reader, but this is the way I've looked at things from this front office perspective. That Vooch and DeRozan, they're not here for the long run. They're here for now just to get this team moving in the right direction. But they're all in on Zach. They're all in on P. Will, etc., etc. Well, think about them adding Lonzo. He would be entering his prime. I think that's where their choice went wrong. What do you mean? Do you mean that just the Lonzo just... Oh, not their fault. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, Lonzo Ball, he signed with the Bulls at age 23, okay? Like, Zach at the time, okay, let's just pull this up. All right, so Zach, again, right now he's age 27, right? Your backcourt would be Lonzo Ball right now, who's age 25. Perfect, right? Those are perfect guys to have together in your backcourt for the next 5 years or so. Maybe even longer than that, right? Lonzo is at that moment where it's like he's just entering his prime as well. But when Patrick Williams starts entering his prime, then we have Lonzo Ball in his prime, Zach LaVine in his prime, right? And hopefully then other players also in their prime. It all makes sense, right? It all fits together, right? This DeMar and Vooch era was never meant to make us contenders. In my opinion, it was not. I thought it was initially. Like, I thought what the Bulls front office was doing initially was that, okay, we're going to get Vooch here, we're going to get DeMar DeRozan here, we're going to then potentially trade either Vooch or DeRozan for another step forward, right? Superstar Rudy Gobert, right? And then we're going to see them take Patrick Williams and trade him and trade more young pieces, right? That's what I thought was going to happen initially. But to see the front office be like, no, we're all in on P. Will. We've continued to draft, which they drafted Dalen Terry. They drafted Ayo Dosunmu. Like, to me, that says, hey, we're sticking with a lot of these guys, but we brought in DeMar DeRozan and Nikola Vucevic to help move this team forward, right? Because if you think about it, a team with Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball, Patrick Williams right now as your main guys, that's not that very good of a team, right? Like that team doesn't go very far. As Zach, your number one option, and who knows who the hell is the number two option, right? If that's all you're gonna do, right? That's not going very far. And they wanted to keep Zach here to make sure that he's that bridge between this core of DeMar and Vooch and him, and then the next core, which is going to be him, Lonzo, P. Will, right? He's that mainstay to stay here, right? So, as you're saying, Noel, they wanted to grow the young core and let the core gain experience. They also wanted to make sure that Patrick Williams, Dalen Terry, and Ayo Dosunmu, and whoever else that they draft, they're in a winning environment, right? They're here surrounded by veterans that, yes, their time isn't now, but couple 3 years from now, then it's their time to shine, and they're ready to take over, right? And at the very least, then, the transition isn't too hard because you had Zach and Lonzo here, and those are your two mainstays in the backcourt for forever, and the other guys can just transition easily into the starting lineup. But, right, who knows? Like, now, I feel like a lot of things have gone wrong. Lonzo his career might be ending. Yes, this core right now with DeRozan and Vucevic, they've underperformed. They've 100% underperformed. It sucks. And that's the reason why it's like, okay, maybe you move Vooch early now. Maybe you move him a little bit earlier than expected. Maybe you keep DeMar around, but maybe you trade him for some pieces too. But to see then, at that point, when we're officially done with DeRozan, Patrick Williams should be at year 4, entering year 5, right? That's when he should be what he should be, or at least starting to enter his climb, right? Or his serious climb. Everything after that were throws in the dark and whatever sticks stays. Yes, you get talent here. Whoever stays ends up staying, and whoever lacks the talent, they're gone, right? And by the way, I don't think it was their main core of Lonzo, Zach, and P. Will was that's it, right? I don't think that their idea was those are the 3 main guys. I think they're like, hey, we're looking at also adding more to that core of Zach, Lonzo, P. Will, whether that's through free agency or through the draft. Okay, Lonzo, Zach, P. Will, that's our foundation pieces. Like, it's not just them. They're here, but they're going to be here for the long run, but they're not that's not it. Like, they're looking to add more. But getting DeRozan, getting Vucevic, getting some of these veteran guys is going to help the transition from some of these younger players. Instead of just losing and then becoming the winning team, you're winning already, and then you continue to still win, right? Iowa's a good throw. Yeah. I think they prioritize their growth in this current era. You mean like winning immediately? Is that what you're saying? When you say prioritize their growth? Yeah, as in Vooch and DeMar. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so they to me, the front office was like, look, we're done with the years of rebuilding. Okay? We can get the talent here, but at the end of the day, we want to win to help this talent move forward, right? Like, we know Vooch and DeMar would leave soon. Oh, yeah. I honestly think that the plan was to have, at the very least, Vooch is gone, right? I don't think they had that like an actual plan of keeping Vooch around for the long run at all. I don't think that was the case. But potentially then DeRozan would stay here as like a veteran presence, and then once he starts, declining, he can still be here. But the transition would then be, once DeRozan declines, then P. Will jumps up and takes his spot, right? So they wanted Lonzo, Zach, and P. Will to become a strong core. Yes, I think that was their entire plan. When DeMar and Vooch leaves, we attract free agents. That, Yeah, but also they could also trade for some guys as well, because at once this DeMar and Vooch era is over, we're only down one pick, right? Like good free agents, yes. Like we're talking top of the line free agents, because again, like to me, it all lines up. 2024, DeMar DeRozan is gone. His contract is up. The Bulls have $75 million in cap space. Like I don't think that's by accident, right? And people talk about the Zach LaVine deal being like, oh, they're not going to be able to sign anybody. They have $75 million in cap space with Zach, with Lonzo, and then they're going to re-sign Patrick Williams this offseason, okay? And the offseason that we're looking at right here. Like, they have all the money in the world to go after big and better free agents, right? But the first, though, was that you had to make sure Zach re-signed, right? And Zach wasn't re-signing if you didn't trade for Vooch, or you didn't trade for DeRozan, or you didn't get Lonzo, right? He's not re-signing. He's gone, right? So Zach re-signs. Now it's we still want to continue to get better, right? We still want to see growth. We still want to see this team be better. But Vooch is gone. Like, Vooch is not here for the long run. Like, goodbye. DeMar, he might be here for a little bit longer than Vooch. Who knows? He might even re-sign, but it's going to be for his, twilight years if he re-signs, right? It's not going to be him averaging 25 points per game. It's going to be him taking a little bit less of a role. And at that point, Patrick Williams is going to be in his 5th year. He should be taking over as a big option for this team, right? And again, we don't know exactly what this front office is thinking. A lot of people were saying trade Patrick Williams last season, right? And I don't think it was a mistake that the Bulls sat there at the trade deadline, right? Everyone's like, why didn't you trade this young piece? Or why didn't you trade Kobe? Or why didn't you do this or that? It's like, look, we know that we're not going to be here. We're not going to invest fully into this core, right? We're not fully invested in Zach, DeMar, and Vooch, right? Those 3 guys, we're not going to fully invest into that core. So why would we spend more assets to help them now? We know then that Vooch after this season is gone, whether we trade him this deadline or he's gone. DeMar, we'll see what happens with him. But we should not be trading our assets until we see Patrick Williams on the rise, until we see Lonzo Ball healthy again, until we see Dalen Terry start to develop, right? There's no reason to make those moves where things look, when everything's not in place, right? Maybe the front office thought his game wouldn't be affected with his age, but his game kind of changed, though. So yeah, here's the thing. There's, again, reports were that DeMar DeRozan, he's looking to re-sign here, okay? Now, I don't know how likely that is now with all the stuff that's happened, but DeMar's been looking to re-sign here, and I think the front office knew, his game would age gracefully. I don't think they expected 27 points per game last season, but they knew that his playmaking skills were going to be there, and at the very least, he's a good veteran presence that is healthy and is going to be able to stick around. He's not going to just suddenly retire, and he's going to be there as a stabilizing force for this team. Whenever Patrick Williams, again, and I'm saying when, it could be if, Patrick Williams starts to ascend, DeMar can take that back seat where he's just more of a playmaker, where he's not shooting as many shots anymore, where he's thinking, all right, I'll take a back seat. Maybe I'm the 3rd option or the 4th option for this team, right? Or maybe I'm taking a bench role with the guys. But in his 3 years that he signed initially with this team, right, he's going to be one of the top options for this team because Patrick Williams isn't ready yet, right? Dalen Terry's not ready, or Lonzo may not be 100% ready for, even if Lonzo can become something like that. But we know Zach's ready, and we need to pair someone up with Zach for now to help us win games, because if we don't, then this team looks bad, right? So DeMar might be here for the long run, right? But he may not be here as the guy, right? He may not be part of the main core idea as one of the main core pieces, right, for the future. He's here now as one of the main guys, but I don't see him here for being one of the main guys moving forward, right? Shea Free Agent 2023. Are you asking about? I'm guessing that's Shea Unstoppable. Is that who you're asking about? Shea Gilgeous-Alexander just re-signed in OKC. He is not going to be a free agent for a very long time. If you're looking. Yeah, he's not going to be a free agent for the longest time. If that's who you're asking about, I'm just guessing that's who you're asking about. What's up, Salty Solution? Yeah, what a game! Heck of a game, right? If you just joined, we're talking about the Bulls' future and what they're going to do at the trade deadline. What I think their plan is for the future. Yeah. If I'm SGA, priority is staying in OKC. Yeah. If I'm SGA, I'm also staying in OKC. I know they're not winning right now, but yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. SGA is not free agent until 2027, so let's not that's someone that is off the table, right? They've asked us to get anyone, they haven't seen young talent, yeah. So, Noel, for example, right, was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, so he's age 24 now or whatever he is, or soon to be 24. Like, the Oklahoma City Thunder, right, they're rebuilding, but they decide to sign him to that max contract, and everyone's kind of like, well, aren't you just going to lose, right? To me, what OKC's doing is kind of similar to what the Bulls are doing, right? Where they're going to have some guys, like they have all the draft picks in the world. They got Chet, right? They have more young talent also down there. But they want to make sure that whenever Chet starts to ascend into his rise, Shai's going to be there too, right? So it's not just going to be that all of a sudden Chet Holmgren is the guy there and the only guy there, right? They're going to have a good transition where Shai's there, helping lead the pack as Chet develops his game. But then once Chet starts to hit his early peak, right, that transition is just going to be smooth, right? They've been playing together forever, et cetera, et cetera. Like, then they can figure out who's the best player between the two, and then, you know, you got your 1-2 for years to come. And Shai's not that old, right? But yeah, you know, I think people kind of get all mixed up or like all honed in on like, okay, they all have to be aged 20, or they all have to be aged 21 to 22, or 19 to 21 when you put a team together, right? That's just not the case, right? The Golden State Warriors, I mean, they're trying to build up their young core while also winning still, right? They're legit trying to be like, all right, we're still looking to win now. We're still looking to win with Steph, Clay, and Draymond. But whenever those guys leave, then we're going to have Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, James Wiseman ready to go, right? And I don't think that's a bad plan. Do I think all those guys are going to stick around? No, because there's going to be guys like, you know, someone's probably going to want a bigger role somewhere else immediately. But they're like, we still have some young guys that we can lean on once, you know, we start to see the decline in some of these other guys. So, and here's the thing. I'll say this. I think Klay Thompson's decline has kind of already started at a severe rate already. He doesn't look that great, right? So, luckily for Golden State, they have Jordan Poole waiting, right? If Klay Thompson suddenly really starts to go bad, they have Jordan Poole waiting right there, right? And I think Jordan Poole is more for like the Steph Curry replacement, but at least they have a guy ready to go, right? See, like you say that Golden State is a special case, but then I look at other teams that I feel like have done this before, right? The San Antonio Spurs, they've been winning for forever, and now, you know, they finally hit the losing button, but they were just a winning team for the longest time. And even though they had Tim Duncan, they had Manu, they had Tony Parker, they still developed young guys, right, to come in and out of that team, and they had their next successor in Kawhi Leonard, but he decided to leave, right? So it's like you can build a team in many different ways. It doesn't all have to be that they all have to be young and all at the same time together, right? You think Golden State would do a swipe for flip Alex Cruz for Jonathan Kuminga? I don't know about that. I think if I'm the Bulls, I might do that very quickly. If I'm the Warriors, if I'm giving up Kuminga, I might want a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know. I've also said this, like, when I talk about the Bulls moving forward, like, yes, Alex Caruso being here is great. And I dearly love Alex Caruso. But if there is a move that is on the horizon with Caruso where he's, a team is offering a guy like Jonathan Kuminga for Alex Caruso, like, yeah, I do that trade, right? But contractually, I don't. Yeah, so this doesn't work off right off the bat, but then add in Patrick Baldwin, I guess, or I think most likely you add in JaMychal Green. Oh, that doesn't even work. Oh, I don't know then. I'll figure it out. Yeah, figure out the rest. Maybe add in Dante DiVincenzo. Who knows? I think Kuminga's overvalued. He's not that good. I'm in my opinion, I think Kuminga is a very raw talent that is still age 20 or 21, whatever he is. So I'm willing to give him a lot of time. I would not write off Kuminga just yet because that guy, to me, he works hard, and I know it's been a little bit of a rough start for him, but I'm not giving up on that sort of talent right now. So I think the Warriors value him highly. Yeah. A lot of talent, but a lot of questions, sure. But you don't want to just give up on the talent at age 20, whatever the heck he is. Like, he's too young to give up on the talent. Like, if we're talking, if it was much later in his career, yeah, maybe have an argument. But he's 20. He just turned 20. I'm not giving up on that early. Steve Kerr did say he would love to have Alex Caruso. Oh, I'm sure the Warriors are trying to figure out a way to get Alex Caruso on their roster, but I don't think it's going to involve Jonathan Kuminga or Moses Moody or James Wiseman. I think it's like P.O., but P.O. had less questions. Sure. Yeah, I think P.O. had less questions as well, but this is a guy that is 6'8" and 210 already, and is only 20 years old, has had very little playing time. I'm not concerned. I think that he's going to develop very, very well. And it's just, again, the Warriors, they have all these guys right now. They're trying to win now, right? Not much of a role for him, but he's recently had a bigger role, right? He's actually getting consistent minutes recently, and he's played pretty well. So I'm not giving up on him personally. And again, if the Warriors offer Kuminga for Caruso, I'm taking that deal. Obviously, there has to be a little bit more money workaround because obviously straight up for Kuminga doesn't work. But not Jordan Poole. I personally would take it. Yeah, Warriors have a good development team. I think it's partly development team, but I also think it's that they have good players on the team too, right? Like, who better for Jordan Poole to learn from than Steph Curry, right? And for Jonathan Kuminga, you want to learn from Draymond Green. If you're Moses Moody, you want to learn from Klay Thompson, right? It's perfect for them. So I don't think it's that big of a surprise to see Jordan Poole work well in the Warriors system because Steph Curry is next to him in his ear helping him out, right? Like, we see the exact same plays run for Jordan Poole as plays that are run for Steph. It's the exact same plays. I'm not shocked it works, right? So not only do they have the development team trying to help turn these players into what they want them to be, they have the players that they can legit, learn from and legit replicate from, right? Jordan Poole, it's not. It shouldn't be 1-to-1 Steph, but a lot of his game looks a lot like Steph Curry, right? If they want Alex Caruso, the players they need to try to get back is, I'll let you finish that Unstoppable. So again, if I'm trading Alex Caruso, like I do think he's a little bit more available than what Bulls fans kind of think. Like, he's not untouchable, by the way. Like, he's either Moses Moody, James Wiseman, or Jonathan Kuminga. I would agree with that statement. Now, when it comes to James Wiseman, I'm a little bit more concerned because he has not played very well, and like, in his little time in the NBA, he has not looked good. I know with Kuminga, he hasn't had great moments either, but at least I've seen him play consistent for 20 minutes per game. With Wiseman, I don't know if he can stay on the floor, right? Yeah. I personally, in my opinion, out of the three, I like Moses Moody, right? I like Moses Moody the most. I think he's a very solid player already, and he can develop something even more. Moses Moody and James Wiseman is too much together. Yes, the Warriors are not going to send Moses Moody and James Wiseman for Alex Caruso. That's not going to happen. But if they're going to be willing to send me Moses Moody and Dante DiVincenzo, I'm doing it. Because I think Moses Moody has that potential. And I like it. If it's Dante DiVincenzo and Jonathan Kuminga, I'm doing it. Do I think the Warriors do it? No. I don't think the Warriors are sending Jonathan Kuminga or Moses Moody for Alex Caruso. I think they're off the table. I personally do. Because the Warriors, they're looking to just add guys to the team and not necessarily give up much. And they're looking to, move very little, right? Because honestly, man, this is the team that just won the championship. Like, I don't know how much they're going to be looking to add more. So, if anything, they're going to be looking to add like very little pieces around the edges at the end of the day. Yeah. So I know you didn't say send them together, Unstoppable, but just in general, like, I think that the Warriors are just like, no, we're not trading any of them for Alex Caruso, or for a guy like Alex Caruso, right? I don't think they're going to 2P. I don't think they're going to 2P either. I don't think they're going to go back to back, but I think they're going to be like, well, we have a good team right now. Palupa, good to see you. Do I know who you are? I'm not sure if I do. But good to see you. Glad you joined. What's the most you think we can get for Caruso? Most I think we can get is it's going to be either you get a salary filler, which is more so like okay player making similar money to Caruso and a first round pick, or we get a young player like a Kuminga, right? In return. So it'd be one or the other. It's either you get first round pick and maybe a vet to fill the salary, or it's a young player with potential. Yeah, I feel they're just going to try to send a pick for Alex. If you're talking about the Warriors, yeah, the Warriors, if they have a pick available, they're 100% going to call the Bulls and be like, we'll give you a pick for Alex Caruso. And I don't think the Bulls are going to accept that. I don't know how the money would work. The money is weird. You'd have to throw on, it'd be Dante DiVincenzo, Patrick Baldwin, which I don't know how much they value anyway, and then JaMychal Green, something like that. Sorry, just catching up. We need big center, power forward, and 3-point shooter who are potential candidates, my man. So this stream has been about just to catch you up. This stream's been about the Bulls and the trade deadline and their future. Okay, so one of the things that we've been talking about a lot in this for this trade deadline is we have to understand what this Bulls front office is thinking. Okay, I don't think that this Bulls front office has been full out saying that this core is going to be the winning core for a championship caliber team. Okay, I thought that they brought in DeRozan, they brought in Vucevic just to help this team start winning now. But they weren't all in on them winning the championship with these guys. They were more so just like, okay, we need to start winning. We have some young players and a young core that we think that could be good, but with DeRozan and Vucevic, they're just kind of the placeholders for now to help us start winning and not, look to full out win a championship. The actual core that they're full on invested in is Patrick Williams, Zach LaVine, and Lonzo Ball. Now, obviously, with Lonzo Ball, things have kind of gone bad with him because of his injury, but the main core that they're really looking at is Zach, P. Will, Lonzo, plus then, they'll probably add someone else to that core via free agency or whoever. Okay? So, at this trade deadline, I've been saying that I think that Nikola Vucevic is going to be the guy to get moved because I already think that this Bulls front office is all in on, like, they're not bringing him back. He was here to help get this Bulls team to start winning, but that time now has passed. They're not talking about him resigning, or there's no contract extension talks. He's gone. So to me that signals that he's moving. They're gonna move him, or they might just let him go for nothing. But in my opinion, it's best to move him. So I think that the Bulls are gonna look to move him, but for what they're gonna potentially move him for is kind of unknown, right? And one of the things that I've been suggesting is you trade Vooch to the New York Knicks. It might be a little bit desperate for some offense there. You get Evan Fournier and Cam Reddish in return. Maybe you get a pick also if you're the Bulls. Maybe not. But this obviously fixes the shooting issue with this Bulls team. Cam Reddish and Evan Fournier can shoot. Evan Fournier is a guy on the bench now. He probably doesn't play very often, but Cam Reddish is a guy that has shooting potential and just potential in general. So be on the lookout for that. We'll see what happens. So yeah, I do think that Vucevic is probably out. Does this trade happen? I don't know. These are two guys that the Knicks don't play for a guy that maybe they will play, right? Again, it's not pretty, but if the Bulls are going to get anything back for Vooch, it's not going to be a lot anyway. Okay, so this is potentially an idea. But we've been recently discussing is will the Bulls trade Alex Caruso, because Alex Caruso maybe wasn't really a guy that they look at as a long-term piece for this team. I would like for him to be here for a while, but if a team is potentially going to give up a first plus extra for Alex Caruso, you take that deal, because Caruso is a guy that you can kind of replace, right? Not saying you can find a guy that's perfectly replaceable to Caruso, but you can replace a guy, a defensive-minded guard that's like Caruso. Gary Payton II's a guy that I always talk about, right? You can find these sort of guys out there. So Caruso's a guy that could potentially be on the move this trade deadline. But what I don't think you should be expecting this trade deadline is to find long-term solutions at whatever position of need, right? So, for example, at the center position, if we're trading Vooch, I don't expect them to trade for a long-term center solution suddenly. I think they're going to look to fix that a little bit later. Probably for next season and not this season, right? So, yeah. So people have been kind of throwing out trade ideas just in general. I threw out DeMar DeRozan trade potentially because I also don't think he's here for the long run. He might be here for the rest of this season, but yeah, we'll see. But I have to catch up on the rest of the chat here. So, you think we make a move for Ayton in the deadline? I do not. I don't think DeAndre Ayton is getting moved. I think the Phoenix Suns, if they're going to make a move, they're going to be trying to make a win-now move and not look to move DeAndre Ayton. So yeah, that to me is what is going to be happening with the Phoenix Suns. So I've suggested the DeMar DeRozan deal for the Phoenix Suns because, as I brought up earlier, Devin Booker is out for 4 weeks, possibly longer. Yeah. I see what you're saying, Unstoppable, and I agree with you, but I'll get to that in a second here. So yeah, DeAndre Ayton to me is not someone getting moved. The Phoenix Suns want to win now. Chris Paul's years are waning. They're not very many years left, right? And now Devin Booker is all of a sudden out for 4 weeks. How do you stay afloat? Maybe a trade for DeMar DeRozan. It's not not guaranteed, just potentially happening. Plus, don't we have any shooters in Windy City Bulls that we can escalate to main roster? So I see a lot of people kind of say, like, why don't we just go get this guy, or why don't we just raise this guy? Well, if we're gonna get somebody from the Windy City Bulls, we have to sign him to contract 1, so someone has to go, right? Both two-way spots, two-way contracts are taken currently, and there's no other room on the roster, so there's that issue. But also, the main shooter on the Windy City Bulls is Malcolm Hill, and he's already on a two-way contract for the Bulls right now. He's not that good of a player. We've seen him play up here at this level. He's not that good, right? And there's a reason why guys are on the G League team and not the actual NBA team. So, to me, there is no guy down there shooting-wise that is going to help this Bulls team now, in terms of shooting. This Bulls team, just in general, needs more shooting in general. They need to go out and get actual NBA players to help the shooting issue, not someone from the G League, right? DeMar plus Alex Cruz for Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson. Suns go with Namba while we get the longer route. So, Noel, again, if the Suns are making a move, they're not trading Mikal Bridges, because if they trade Mikal Bridges, they're not looking to win now then. They need Mikal Bridges to win now. I don't see Mikal Bridges getting moved at all. So if you're saying, like, well, Alex Caruso can then replace Mikal Bridges, to me, Mikal Bridges, what he brings is not replaceable. He's someone that is necessary for them to win. So, yeah, we'll see. Rosen can carry us against the good teams, bro. What do you mean, El Trapo? All right, moving on. So what do you think about DeMar DeRozan saying assistant coach drew up the play he knew the Milwaukee Bucks was going to do to, which led to the steal and tying the game? Makes Billy look bad. So I don't know if that necessarily makes Billy look bad, unstoppable. I'm going to overall say it's a little annoying that that Billy didn't recognize it, right? And he typically feels like, I feel like he should be kind of the guy to recognize it. But at least for me, it's a positive that we have at least someone on that coaching bench that is aware of stuff like this, right? But with Billy, I guess he didn't recognize it. To me, it's not that huge of a deal. But I think it more so it's like, hey, we at least have someone there, right? That is aware of that type of stuff, right? Because I also think like a guy like Alex Caruso could be aware of stuff like that. But we also saw one of the assistant coaches for the Atlanta Hawks drew up that play for AJ Griffin to beat the Bulls on that alley-oop buzzer beater. That was an assistant coach that did that, right? So not everything falls on the head coach. The assistants are there for a reason, right? They help out in certain situations. And in this case, they helped out on that inbound possession for the Milwaukee Bucks. So good job by them. Does Billy probably need to be a little bit better? Yeah. But I'm not going to say that full out makes him look horrible, that he wasn't aware of stuff like that. Pooch out then, yeah. We need Caruso to beat the Celtics. I don't think we're beating the Celtics or any playoff team this in the playoffs. Yeah. Let's see here. We need Vooch right now unless we get it big with rim protection. So, El Trapo, what I'm saying is that I don't think that this Bulls front office is full out invested into this season, right? I think they're like, hey, yeah, we wanted to win. Like, we wanted to be a good team this season, but I don't think they're like, yeah, we're all in on this season. So, rim protection is something that they're aware that this team obviously needs, but they're like, I won't be shocked if they don't address rim protection until they think that this team is, you know, a rim protector away from becoming a legitimate title contender, right? Yes, rim protection in general is needed. Andre Drummond is not enough. They need more, right? So, yes, I agree that rim protection is needed, but if they trade Vooch, I won't be upset if they don't get a rim protector in return. I personally won't, because I think they're looking at more long-term if they're trading Vooch, and if they get a young player in return, or they get a draft pick, or whatever they get, at least they got something in return for a guy that they're not keeping, right? That's what I worry more about than does it help this team now. Because to me, this season's already a wash. It's been an already bad season. The Bulls might get the 6th seed, but yeah. Also, any news for Kobe? He didn't continue to play just now against the Bucks. So yes, Kobe White, he suffered a leg injury during the Bucks game. He did not play the rest of the game. So he suffered in the first half, did not play in the second half. We'll see his thing. I did not see the play. I just saw him limping. So I don't know exactly what it was, and I don't know about any update personally. So if you want an update, I recommend Casey Johnson on Twitter. He typically knows everything. But yeah, I don't know. He'd be the guy to go to about that. Malcolm Hill made a huge comeback last year against the Suns. He's the go. Yeah. People say DeMar's defense is trash and won't cut it against teams in playoffs. DeMar has shown that his persistent shooting will get points down and will outweigh his mid defense. And then Alupa says, well, most of the time DeMar, the defense outweighs his offense, unfortunately, this season, it seems. So here's what I've been saying in this stream as well for people that just are coming in right now. I've been saying that I think personally that the Bulls, right, at least for this season, like they're not actually looking to trade DeRozan. Okay, DeRozan I think is here for at the very least the end of this season. Now, again, I brought up the Phoenix Suns deal, right, because this is happening. If the Phoenix Suns offer a crazy offer, I don't think that the Bulls should turn it down. Like if they're offering a ridiculous amount of picks and a lot of good players, you take it. But in general, I don't think they're looking to move DeRozan. But that does not mean that they're saying that DeRozan's here for the long run. I think DeMar DeRozan is going to be a big part of this team for the rest of his contract, which means this season and then next season as well. After next season, his contract is up. And then the Bulls are going to have suddenly $75 million in cap space after DeMar DeRozan hits, or the season that, or offseason DeMar DeRozan hits free agency, okay? Which then to me is when the course shifts, where we see a new guy come in or a new big free agent come in, right? Or they trade for someone else. DeMar DeRozan in general, I think might still be here, but he's not going to be one of the main guys. Now for this season, I think DeRozan is needed, obviously, because he's one of the few scorers on this roster that can actually put the ball in the basket. But moving forward, I don't know how much that this front office is invested in DeMar DeRozan. I don't think they're fully invested into him leading a team, especially when he's age 35 coming into this season where the Bulls have $75 million in cap space, right? So that's something that I think we just need to kind of think about right now. I don't think DeRozan's getting moved. I'll just say that. So if you're kind of looking at moving DeRozan, it would have to be for something significant, like something very, very significant. The deal that grew up with the Phoenix Suns would be significant, right? But in general, I just don't think DeRozan's getting moved. So I think we can just kind of end this conversation for now with DeRozan. Yeah, I think DeRozan's here to stay, at least for the time being. That does not mean he's here for the long run, but for this season, I think he is here. Vooch is amazing at running offense, but we have too many scores of people who have ISO tendencies, so it's better to run him against smaller teams. He's not our answer, though. So, in my opinion, El Trapo, one of the things that I've been kind of saying is that you can't run offense through the post anymore in today's game, right? It has been shown that we do not get. It has been shown that if you run an offense through the post, it is not analytically as effective as running the pick and roll, playing 5 out, right, and playing up downhill. Okay, it has been analytically proven that you do not run through the post. So with Vucevic, for example, we talk about him running the offense through him. To me, that sounds like, we have to throw the ball into the post. And to me, that's not something we should do unless he has a mismatch. Okay. Now, it's been evident that, and I agree with this, that the Bulls do not find Vucevic enough when he has a small guy on him. But what's also happening is when Vucevic has a mismatch where he has a small guy on him, what that also means is that there's a mismatch somewhere else, right? That means there's a big on a guard somewhere. And it's been analytically shown that you should go to that mismatch on the perimeter than to exploit the mismatch in the post with Vucevic being guarded by a smaller guy. So running the offense through Vooch in general is just not a good idea. It's not something you should do, right? Jokic and Embiid, those are generational talents, Hall of Famers that can do more than just run an offense through a post, right? They can dribble, they can ISO, they can do whatever, they can do everything, right? They're different. Vucevic, he can't dribble the ball. So for him to get his offense is through the post, or his teammates have to set him up, which therefore makes him not that reliable of an option and not something you should run the offense through, okay? So to me, you don't run an offense through Vooch. Have the Bulls done a good job of, keeping him involved? No. I think they need to do a little bit better job, including when he has that mismatch. But in general, I do think that the Bulls are doing it right, where they're not running the offense through him. They're running the offense through DeMar and Zach, which they should, because that's what you should do, because that's what all the other teams do, right? And it's just going to be something that we kind of look at moving forward, that getting Vooch here was just to help this team start winning now. He's not here for the long run, and he's not the answer long run at center either, right? He's not going to be here at center for much longer, in my opinion. I'd be hella surprised if he signs an extension with the Bulls this season or in the offseason, right? I think he's gone, whether the Bulls trade him or it just leaves in free agency. So with Vucevic, I think he's a good player, but it's not someone I'm running my offense through. And I think Bulls fans need to start understanding that, because I do think the Bulls fans are kind of stuck in the 90s a little bit, not saying you are specifically, but Bulls fans, they like mid-range shots, they like playing through the post, they like slow, grinded out basketball, and we're in a different era, right? We can't play that era of basketball. Those days are over, right? We need to make sure that we play up-tempo and do things a little bit differently, similar to how the rest of the league does it out there, right? I hope we trade him. We definitely won't get Kawhi for him, though. So, trading DeRozan, right? It's either you trade him, which, again, I think his value is pretty high, right? We'll see what his value is exactly. If you can get a significant return for him, you trade him. But if you can't, right, if a team's only offering a first-round pick and a salary filler, you don't trade him, okay? There's no reason to trade DeMar DeRozan, which, again, by the way, if you're coming into the stream, I have been saying the Bulls are not going to rebuild, okay? This Bulls team is not going to rebuild. They don't have their picks. I know people have been saying for a rebuild, but it's just not going to happen, okay? It's not happening whether you like it or not. So I'm going off of that, in my opinion, of the Bulls aren't rebuilding. So if you're trading DeRozan, you're trading him to either get good players in return, or you're just trading him to reload on assets. And if a team is willing to give up three first-round picks, sure, I'll do that trade. But I don't know if a team's going to be doing that. And do I see a team giving that up? Who knows? But if a team's going to be offering me a first-round pick and, extra, I'm not doing that trade, right? I'm keeping DeRozan here. Yeah. This front office seems fond for point guard. We need shooters, center / power forward. Also, if Ricky Rubio, Thad Young available, grab him. So Ricky Rubio is with the Cavs, guys. He tore his ACL last season, which kept him out for last season. He was then traded to the Indiana Pacers and then became a free agent and then re-signed with the Cavs. So he's on the Cavs. I don't see the Cavs moving him because they actually kind of need him whenever he gets back. So yeah, I don't see the Cavs moving on for Ricky Rubio. Thad Young, I also don't see getting moved from the Toronto Raptors. They're also going through their own crap right now. But we'll see if someone like Thaddeus Young becomes available. I don't think it helps that much with this Bulls team. I think there's more issues than just getting an extra power forward on the team. Does he help? Yeah, but I think there's bigger issues than that. And again, Thaddeus Young would not be here for the long run, right? If the front office is going to be making a move, it's going to be for the long run. A guy that can be a long-term solution for, the point guard position or the backup power forward position or stuff like that. So I'm not trading any assets for a guy like Thad Young when he's already past 30+ years old and probably isn't going to be getting any better anytime soon. So yeah, I like Vooch at like stretching power forward. We need another center though. I personally do not like Vooch as a stretch power forward. I think Vucevic is a center that is unfortunately extremely limited on the defensive end, and he is not very mobile and has no dribbling skills, which makes him very hard to play with in today's era. You need a center that is mobile, that can put the ball on the floor and be able to drive to the rim by himself in today's game, and Vooch just doesn't have that. He needs help getting his own shot, right? Which limits the Bulls, right? Which limits how much they can do. He's very offensively skilled, but he's also a guy that came in an era where it wasn't as much up-tempo basketball, right? If we can find another player like Dragic caliber, we'd be much better, I guess. Just to recap, do the Bulls have any draft picks for 2023, first or second round, if any? So the Bulls, their own draft pick is traded to the Orlando Magic. It is top 4 protected, okay? The Bulls could have a first round pick from the Portland Trailblazers trade. So Chicago Bulls, real GM. I always just go to this website. They do a pretty decent job showing. So right now, this is what the Bulls have for 2023. Okay, the Bulls, they have their own pick if it's 1 through 4, which I don't think is going to happen, and is very slim chance of happening. Right? They have the potential to get the Portland pick if the Portland Trailblazers make the playoffs, which is there's a good potential of that happening. So a pick between 15 and 30 from the Portland Trailblazers is a good chance of happening. We'll see though. If they don't get that this year, it then goes to next year. Though they could get it next year. Second rounder, their own second round pick is going to LA. And I don't know exactly how everything else works out, but they may have their own second round pick, but if they get it, it is then forfeited. So if they get a second round pick, it's forfeited. Which again, I do not know how this all works out with the second rounders. So in general, though, what I'm looking at is they could potentially have a first round pick between 15 and 30 for the 2023. Yeah. Rebuild. Okay. Salty solution. I'm sorry. I just don't think they're going to rebuild. I'm personally not on the rebuild train either. I don't want the rebuild to happen. And I think it's just not worth it, in my opinion. How about the Portland pick? Same as this year then? So yeah, so the Portland pick can be given to the Bulls this season. Yes, in 2023. It's just that the Portland Trailblazers have to make the playoffs. If the Portland Trailblazers are in the lottery, it goes to Portland. Now, if that pick goes to Portland this year, then next year it's the same thing. It's lottery protected, so if the Portland Trailblazers make the playoffs that year, the Bulls get it. If they don't, then it goes to Portland. And it's going to be the same thing with that pick until 2027. So that's just there for the Bulls for forever. If they somehow don't get that pick. If the Portland pick then whenever it is conveyed, then that all goes away. The Bulls got the pick then. So yeah. Unstoppable, you just brought up Jared Vanderbilt. That's a guy that I think potentially the Bulls could go after, and I would love for them to go after. I'll get to that in a second here. Jared Vanderbilt was good, but nothing that we can offer will be enough. Yeah, it'd be tough. I'll just say that it would be tough, and I do think that the Utah Jazz kind of do value him. So it would be tough, but I want to look into it, see if there's a potential trade that could happen. But Salty Solution, I want to talk to you for a second here. So, I've been trying to make this clear to Bulls fans, and I guess I haven't explained it very well, but I've always said that this Bulls team that is currently constructed, okay, we're talking about, Zach, DeMar, Vooch, okay, that core of those three guys the front office was never meant to win with that core. Like, they never had the intention of going and becoming a championship caliber team with those three guys on the roster, okay? Or at least those three guys being the main guys on a roster, okay? I don't think that was something that they planned on doing. I think that they got those guys because they saw that the last 5 years for the Bulls, before they got there, or as last 4, was bad teams that had no veteran presence, that all sucked, that had legit no star power on that team, on those teams, and they're like, hey, we want to win now because we cannot continue this losing culture in Chicago. So they go out and get those guys. Yes, they give up picks for those guys, but once those guys leave or are done being the main guys, those picks are then gone, right? The Orlando draft picks are going to be done after this year's draft, and then Vooch is going to be gone after this year, in my opinion. So once Vooch is gone, then the trade is over, right? I would like to get something a little bit more in return, but at the very least, what this has done is that the Bulls have gotten to being more of a winning team, and all the picks that they gave up for these guys, well, that's over. They're reaccumulating draft assets again, okay? So, if anything, you're down one pick, which is the 2025 pick, okay? So you still have assets available. To me, the main core, or the main guys that they're full on invested in is Zach, Patrick Williams, and Lonzo Ball. That was the idea, okay? Zach LaVine was 27 years old. He's just entering his prime years, okay? I know people think that he might be regressing. I disagree. I think he's just fine. But Zach, they wanted to make sure that he's going to be here, okay? So the only way to make sure that he re-signs here is if you go out and get guys like Vooch and DeRozan to come here, okay? So you had to go out and do that to make sure he re-signs here. He will. They drafted high. They have full faith in him. They've made it clear that they're not willing to trade him unless it's for something significant. So they clearly value him very highly. And then Lonzo Ball, when they signed Lonzo Ball, he was 23, 24 years old, right? Right? Like, these guys, Zach LaVine, 27. Zach LaVine, 27. Lonzo Ball now is 25. Patrick Williams is 21. So when Zach is, officially in his prime years, age 28, 29, 30, etc., Patrick Williams is becoming or ascending into his prime, right? So we have then Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball in their prime, and then Patrick Williams just entering his prime. To me, those were the guys that the front office fully invested in. That these are the guys that we're moving forward with. DeMar and Vooch, they're here to help get the team to that point where P. Will's ready to take that next step, where Lonzo Ball's ready to take that next step, right? And then they'll probably add in another guy, hence the $25 or $75 million in cap space that I'm talking about, for a very loaded free agency class, okay? To me, that's what they're planning on doing. So I understand that Bulls fans are like looking at this team like DeMar and Vooch are getting older. We're not going anywhere with them. They're not getting any better. I agree with that statement, but this front office wasn't invested into them. Like, I don't think they've done anything to show that they're fully invested in this core and taking them to the promised land. I think that they've been saying this core here right now is to help the transition for the actual core that we fully believe in, which is Zach, P. Will, Lonzo, and then whoever else they add in between free agency or trade or whoever, okay? But think about it. When DeMar DeRozan's contract is up, Patrick Williams is going to be entering his 5th year, okay? At that point, we're expecting Patrick Williams to at least be ascending into his prime. Maybe not, hitting all-star level, but at least to start looking very good, right? I would assume he'll be entering his 4th year. Dalen Terry will be entering his 3rd year. We're looking at guys that we're looking at developing right now, that are in development, becoming all of a sudden at the forefront of this team, okay? With Zach at the helm, still here in his prime. Lonzo, obviously in his prime. P. Will just getting into it. Now, the Lonzo situation has just gone to absolute crap. So they might have to, figure out the point guard position a little bit later. But, we're looking at guys that should be ascending into their prime as Vooch, DeMar leave. Or aren't the main guys anymore. So to me, this doesn't require a rebuild. Okay, you have Zach. He's 27. He's not 30. He's 27. Okay, he has plenty of years of good basketball left. I don't think Zach's done. Okay, I understand where Bulls fans are like, we need a full out tank, but to me, you just have to be patient with this team because this Bulls front office understands that they weren't going to start winning just immediately. DeMar and Vooch, they're just here just to get us to start winning. They're gone. They're not invested into them. So trading Vooch for some assets in return, that's cool. That's good. If you trade DeMar, great. He may end up staying here, though, as kind of like that veteran presence for, his twilight years of his career. And that's fine, too, in my opinion. But if you also trade him, that's also cool. But if you're doing that, I also think it's for the other guys that they've invested in, which is clearly they've invested into Zach, they invested into P. Will, they invested in Alonzo, and I think they're going to invest in some other very important piece later on in the future. Because a lineup of a healthy Lonzo, a healthy Zach LaVine, a Patrick Williams entering, age 23, age 24 season should be getting better, right? That's enticing for a good amount of free agents, right? Especially if you're a winning ball club and you're surrounded by a decent supporting cast. That's enticing. I could see a big-time free agent being like, yeah, I want to go to play with Chicago Bulls because they have money, they got young talent there, they got talent currently there already. I want to go there, right? Hence, this free agency class is full of loaded talent. And look, I'm not here to be backing up the front office for stuff that they've done. The Vooch trade was an L. It was very clearly an L. But I also wouldn't be shocked if they did that trade and they expected to lose that trade. Like, straight up. I don't know if they expect to be this bad with Vooch, but to me, I don't think they expected Vooch to be here for very long. I think they expected him to just play out the rest of his contract here, and that's it. So, maybe 2 first-round picks isn't worth it, but you at least got the team moving in the direction that they wanted to. Now, he's in my opinion, gone. DeMar is no longer at the forefront of the team. It's Zach, P. Will, Alonzo. Add in someone else from here, a Pascal Siakam, a Jaylen Brown, a Domantas Sabonis, a Fred VanVleet, and then down here, where is he? A DeJounte Murray, who's another guy that I think is fit perfectly with this team now that Lonzo is having issues. Like, to me, it all makes sense. Now, I'm not here to be like I'm a spokesperson for the front office. I'm not, saying this is exactly what they're planning. But in my head, this is kind of always how it's been. I thought initially when they traded for Vooch and they got DeMar that they'd be looking to make a major trade, hence Rudy Gobert or someone else to come on in and help this team. But they did not do that. They just kind of sat there. And I'm like, they know that this team isn't good enough to win it all. So why did they just kind of sit there and not do anything? Hence, they're not fully invested. So if you're not fully invested in DeMar and Vooch, there's no reason to keep adding in or invest more assets into that core, right? So I think as Bulls fans, we kind of have to wait around a little bit because, again, you're not winning a championship in 3 years since the front office took over. That's not happening, okay? I'm aware that Bulls fans hate this front office right now. I'm aware that they hate Zach. I'm aware that they hate a bunch of things. They're saying that Patrick Williams is a bust or Dalen Terry is like not getting in playing time and DeMar DeRozan's here, but like where is this team going? I'm aware, but I also don't think that this front office is just sitting there and being like, yeah, all right, we're done. I don't think that's the case. I think they've said it in their press conferences that they're looking at this long term. They're looking at this to be a step-by-step process. They've said that. And that since that quote from Mark Eversley, I've been like, okay, I'm going to try to figure out what's their timeline in their head. What are they really looking at a step-by-step process? And to me, DeMar and Vooch, they're not here for the long run. They're just here to help this team start winning now. But they've invested fully into some of the younger guys, hence LaVine, Lonzo, P. Will, and they expect them to turn out to work out well. It could not work out well. P. Will could not turn into the all-star that we think he could be. But at least to me, that was the idea all along, was Patrick Williams is going to become that at least a very solid player. Maybe not all-star, but at least a very solid player. So then we can be an enticing free agent destination as Chicago should be in 2024, right? So I know it's frustrating for Bulls fans because it's like the next season's kind of just down the drain too. Yeah, kind of is. But it's also development time for Patrick Williams, Dalen Terry, Ayo, whoever they draft, if they draft anybody, right? That matters. Like, it's not like all of a sudden Patrick Williams becomes a superstar overnight. It takes seasons to get these guys into what they should become. So I hope that Bulls fans understand patience a little bit, but I understand Victor Wembanyama is there and everyone's like, oh my God, he's there. We gotta try to get him. It's just to me that if you try to go get him and you don't get him, then what the hell are you going to be doing after that? You're stuck. You don't have your pick. You don't have your 2025 pick. Hell, if you get your top 4 pick this season, you don't get your pick next season because then it conveys to next season. So then you don't have your pick next season. There's no reason to rebuild when you don't have these picks, okay? And you can blame the front office for that if you want. But to me, it's been about rebuilding or building for the future and looking towards the future. The 2024 season, not these 2 seasons right now. They expected this team to be better this season. I can tell you that. I don't think they expected this team to be under 500 right now, but I don't think they expected this Bulls team to win it all. I sincerely don't think that at all. So I just think that we need to start looking at that as well. Like, try to view it from their perspective. Okay, why did they make these moves, and why did they not make any trade deadline moves last season? Right, everyone was calling for a shooter or to trade Patrick Williams. Well, they were very clearly saying like, we're not trading P. Will, right? Unless it's for a very significant offer. So we have to take these little decisions and line it up. And I feel like that's what we're looking at right now, which is, yeah, we're not invested in DeMar and Vooch. Vucevic, you're an unrestricted free agent. We're not going to re-sign you. We might look to move you this trade deadline. And I'm all for it if that's the case. I think that's something that needs to be looked at. When will teams be selling to make room for Victor Wembanyama? I already think the tank is happening, honestly. So if you're Detroit and you're Charlotte, you suck already. If you're Houston, I don't know exactly what you're doing because it kind of seems like they're winning or trying to win. We'll see. I just won't be shocked if San Antonio starts moving some pieces. Yeah. We're 6 weeks away from the trade deadline. January 15th is when I think some things are going to start happening. I just won't be shocked to see some of these like very, very bad at the bottom of the barrel teams make some moves to get themselves worse at the trade deadline. So February, early February, end of January, early February. I think that's where we're going to really start seeing it. Let's see here. Although I am mad, I agree on Zach. Okay, so yeah, see, Bulls fans, I understand that Zach LaVine has had a overall like a not that great of a season. He's played better of recent. Okay. Also, I had an argument with this some people about Zach and his fourth quarter play. People keep saying that Zach disappears in the fourth quarter. Well, I'll disagree with you just based off this little stat right here. I'll say Zach in the clutch at the start of the season has been awful. Like he started the season awful from the clutch. He was one of the worst in the league, but he's changed that recently. He hit 2 big shots in the Atlanta game. He hit big shots in that New York Knicks game. He hit 2 big threes tonight against the Milwaukee Bucks to keep the team in it. He made some big shots. Okay, did DeMar DeRozan take over down the stretch? Yes, he did. And here's the thing: having Zach LaVine be your secondary option in the fourth quarter, to me, fine. That works. That's fine with me because he's gonna still be effective as an off-ball player. He's 10th in the league in fourth quarter points this season, and this is with him not being 100%. He's fine. Okay, he was one of the best players in the league last year in the clutch. He was one of the best players in the league last year in the fourth quarter. I'm not too worried about him, and I honestly think that we're not going to see best of Zach until probably January or middle of January here. But recent games from him, I've been nothing but pleased with his recent games. I know that Houston Rockets game was just overall bad for everybody, but I thought he also played well in that one. So, you know what? It is what it is at the end of the day. Just need to make sure he's red hot come playoff time. Yeah, and I think Zach LaVine will be in top tier game shape come playoff time. Obviously he just needs to stay healthy, right? We'll see. Marco, I don't know what they plan with Marco. I honestly don't. Yeah. But again, second round pick, they most likely won't turn out to be anything. Bottom 4 means 2 from East and 2 from West, right? With 14% rate. Bottom 4 is legit the 4 worst records, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be 2 from East or 2 from West. It could all just be, it could just be legit. The bottom 4 teams could all be in the West, or they could all be in the East. So it doesn't matter who it is. It's the worst record overall. But again, though, it would be the top. The 3 worst teams have a 14% chance. Then the 4th worst team would have a 12.5% chance of getting the first overall pick. So again, not really worth it. Like it would only be worth it if you're the worst team, so that you have the best odds of getting the first overall pick. But then you at the very worst can get 5th in the end. So yeah. To me, it makes no sense, because if you're the 4th worst team, right, you have a 12.5% chance of getting the first overall pick. Well, you have a very small chance of getting the 2nd and 3rd overall pick, and then you have a very high chance of getting a 7th overall pick in that scenario. Hence, what the Bulls did in many times in the 7th overall pick, because hell, just to show you, the lottery doesn't work. Right, it's not always going to help the team that it needs the pick the most. I apologize for my F-bomb, but there's no guideline because I'm on YouTube, so there's that. So it just shows you that rebuilding has to go your way, including the lottery balls, and it's most likely not going to happen. So yeah. Yes, worst records overall. It's not the 2 worst teams from each conference. It's the worst records overall. So if we look at the standings, right? The Bulls, let's just say the Bulls decide to tank the rest of the season, right? The Oklahoma City Thunder, LA Lakers, San Antonio Spurs, and Houston Rockets could all have worse records than the Bulls, and the Bulls could have the worst record in the East. But if they all have worse records, then they have the best lottery odds. Bulls would be 5th then. Again, just saying. Rebuilding? I'm not for it. To me, it doesn't make any sense. Whoever gets Victor Wembanyama is going to be very happy. And here's the thing. You know what's really funny? I won't be shocked if the Minnesota Timberwolves end up with Victor Wembanyama, because they are not making the playoffs, and they'll suddenly jump up to the first overall pick somehow. And all these teams that we kept thinking, oh, maybe it's the Houston Rockets, maybe it's the Detroit Pistons, maybe it's the San Antonio Spurs. Guess what? You got jumped up by a team that made the 11 seed that was almost in the playoffs, and they jumped up ahead of you, because that's how the lottery works in today's era. The New Orleans Pelicans, when they got Zion Williamson, they were 8th. They had the 8th best odds. Just showing you, the New York Knicks wanted Zion really badly, and they tanked the hell out of their season to get him. And guess what? They didn't get him. They have the 3rd overall pick. RJ Barrett? Yeah, not Zion Williamson. It happens. And that's the reason why it's like you can't just depend on your lottery luck, even if you're one of the worst teams in the league. It's not going to work. From my understanding, team like Detroit can have as much first round pick till now because it costs less until they all renew their contracts. What do you mean by that? Are you saying that the Detroit Pistons can make as many picks as they want until they have to restart re-signing some of their players? Adam Silver might rig it for us. He hates the Bulls. Have you seen the officials ref Bulls or officiate Bulls games? There's no way in hell Adam Silver is going to help the Bulls. I'm just saying, so first off, I don't think that this Bulls front office is looking to rebuild, by the way, so it's not going to happen. But I sent out a tweet saying, look, if the Bulls front office hit the rebuild button and they actually decided to full out tank this season, and they got the worst record in the NBA, and then the Bulls still got the 5th overall pick. I want everybody like you, Salty Solution, to be like, I raise your hand and say, I wanted it. I wanted this. You have to full out admit and say, this was my idea and I wanted that, right? I want people that are saying this, the rebuild, to acknowledge that they'd be okay with that. Because I feel like that you guys wouldn't be okay with it, right? If they take the entire season, did exactly what you're saying, and then all of a sudden they get the 5th overall pick and have the worst record in the league. You guys asked for it. I'm just saying it's a high possibility of that happening if the team decides to tank. You'll live with it if it happens. All right, see, you admit that. All right, you'll live with it. But I guarantee you that there are people, if that actually did happen, they'd be like, oh my God, why did they'd flip suddenly, right? All of a sudden they'd just be like, why did we tank? How dare we do this, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, you guys asked for it, so I'm gonna hold you to that, Salty. That you're saying that you'd live with it. All right. Yeah, we'll never find out because this bull team's not rebuilding. But just saying, Adam Silver's a Bulls fan, but he doesn't act like it. I disagree. I think Adam Silver's not a Bulls fan. I think he's a California fan because the Sacramento Kings somehow jumped up to number 2 in the Luka Doncic draft and did not draft Luka Doncic, so they're kicking and screaming after that 60-20-10 game. At least I know we had a good shot at Victor. All right. So be it. But then, to me, I'm just looking at that Bulls team as like, we don't have our draft pick. What's next? We're screwed. I think Adam Silver is very much like a California fan. So I don't know what that exactly means, but who knows, man. I if he is rigging the lottery, I think it's for California teams, and not for any team on the East Coast or in the Midwest, because we've seen the New York Knicks get absolutely screwed in the lottery. They've been screwed hard. And the Houston Rockets just recently got screwed as well. Adam said that's why he said he doesn't act like it. Oh, okay. I don't know. I would hope the commissioner is not doing anything. But we know that that's not the case. That's why we trade DeMar while his value is as high as. Sure, I'm fine with that. I just think that if we don't trade him, it's not the end of the world. Man, I'd be down for a DeRozan trade. Whether it's to regain assets or just to get good players, I'm fine with it. But if we don't trade him, I don't think it's the end of the world for this team, right? I think I think this team's going to be still fine, even if we keep DeRozan here and then have him age out of being one of the main guys, and we have a new core intact. He might still be here as like a veteran guy, but that's fine. But if we want to trade him, sure, I'm cool with that too. He's not here for the long run. And I don't exactly know how the front office is with Zach, but to me, all signs to me point that Zach is here to stay. So if you're Bulls fan, get used to Zach LaVine being here for a while. I know a lot of Bulls fans hate him right now, but to me, I think that dude gets way too much hate for just in general. The dude's been getting hate since he came into the league. Like ever since Zach's been in the league, it's always been like he can't do this, can't do that, isn't this, isn't that. And he's proven a lot of people wrong with what he's done. So, I don't know what it is I don't know how him and Donovan are gonna work out in terms of that relationship and the coaching staff, but to me, Zach's here to stay. So get used to it. People keep saying that his shot selection's bad. I'm here to tell you that if you watch any other star in the league, all-star, not superstar, just all-star, they're taking the same shots as Zach. Very similar shots. So get used to it, because it's a new NBA. We have perimeter guys shooting threes at will. We have role players taking threes, contested threes off the pick and roll. It's how it works. No more of this mid-range nonsense. And DeMar DeRozan's a phenomenal mid-range shooter, but The mid-range game, like, yeah, take it when it's there, but it's not something you should run your offense through, or it should not be your go-to move, right? No shot. It should be your go-to move. Like, if Jordan Poole, for example, was on this Bulls team, like, I cannot imagine how many Bulls fans would be pissed off at his shot selection. And I'm just like, no, that's the shots he should be taking. I think he's taking the right shots. But Bulls fans would absolutely hate his shot selection. I'd be like, no, that's what he should be taking. That's what the guards do in this league. I think Zach's going to eventually say it's either me or Billy. I could see that happening, and here's the thing: if that's the case, I think the front office is gonna choose Zach because they've invested all this money into him. I know they just re-signed Billy, but to me, this front office has been like, okay, we could have kept Boylan, they got rid of him quickly. If it's gonna come down to him or Billy, I think Billy's gonna be goodbye. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the wrong one. So, all this is coming from because, like, I initially, when the Bulls were going through that awful stretch when they couldn't win a single game, I was thinking like the rebuild could have been a possibility. I was genuinely thinking like, okay, we're trading Zach, we're trading DeMar, we're trading Vooch immediately. Like, we'll see what happens. Then we'll see if the Bulls decide to full out tank it or just decide, okay, we're just trading those guys, and then maybe the next season we're gonna full out tank. But all signs to me have. And this is, when I was sick and, recovering still, so I had a lot of time to think about this. All signs have showed so far that they're not rebuilding, they're not trading Zach, they're probably not trading DeMar, at least for this season, but Vooch could be going, which to me signals that they're starting to move into that second stage of what they had in mind, which was that the Zach, Lonzo era is starting to come into form, and DeMar and Vooch are starting to go away. So, I think that's what they're planning on doing. This front office, to me, had a long-term plan right from the start. Like, you don't just come in and just be like, okay, get rid of this player, keep this player. All right, we're done. No, they have a long-term plan. Like, they have a 5-year plan. They have the 3-year plan. They have a 5-year plan. They have a 10-year plan. To me, they're just going off their plan for now. They're not going to go off of that plan from here on out. And so far, they've stuck to it, and I don't see them changing. So, we're going to really see what is the plan. So, Bulls fans keep saying, like, okay, we want change for this team. I want change for this team, too. I want Vucevic gone, because this big three clearly doesn't work. But I don't know if this Bulls front office is like, we intended for this to work. Or, intended for this big three to work to the point where we're all of a sudden a top team in the East. I don't think they expected that. I think they're just like, no, we're looking at this team just to win for now. And then we're going to start moving into the really win now stage once starts moving forward and Lonzo is hopefully healthy and getting better. And other young guys are developing too. And I think that's a fine way of doing things. I personally do. So, end of the day, this season, it sucks. I know Bulls fans are impatient. Hell, look, man, I'm also a White Sox fan. I went through legit 8 years of rebuilding, and my White Sox have won one playoff game in so far 3 years, okay, of their contention window. I went through 8 years of it, and they're stuck in hell, right? I understand that's where Bulls fans could be like, we're stuck in hell. I get it. But to me, there's a very clear path to where they're like, we're not stuck in hell. That this wasn't what the plan was in general. So, we're not going to know until the moves are made because the front office is not going to say anything, right? They're not going to be out here saying, okay, no, we did not plan for this team to go to the championship, or we did not plan to keep DeMar and Vooch for the long term. They're not going to say that, right? So we have to watch and see what they do or do not do, right, for this team moving forward. To me, the biggest thing that they're not doing right now is that they're not re-signing Vucevic, okay? There's no extension talks between Vucevic and the Bulls. There was that report earlier this season from, I believe it was Joe Coley, that the Bulls and Vooch have had extension talks or whatever. Like, that, we have never heard about that since, right? That has just gone goodbye. So, I think that kind of shows you that there's something else going on here, right? And again, if the Bulls actually did agree to a Vucevic extension, I think it's for 1 year, and it's not much longer than that. So now I'm like, I think they're looking to trade him. Maybe they trade DeRozan, maybe they don't. But they're not here for the long run. So this trade deadline and this offseason, start looking for the Bulls to get more long-term assets. Maybe they find a long-term center for the future. Maybe they find an actual point guard that they're going to fully trust because Lonzo's out for who knows how long. Maybe they start adding in more bench players that they can see as being more long-term pieces, right? Moving forward. But to me, this team is all about the future right now with P. Will, Zach, and Lonzo at the core, right? With more, obviously, but not necessarily we're keeping DeMar and Vooch to run it back and try to win it all and try to go all in, right? Which I understand Bulls fans wanted it, right? I wanted Gobert, but I was also aware that getting Gobert would be very difficult. Hence, the Minnesota Timberwolves give up 5 first-round picks, and they suck right now with Rudy Gobert. No reason to do a move unless it officially puts you over the hump, right? This move for the Minnesota Timberwolves did not push them over the hump, and they're stuck in hell right now. At least for them, though, they have an out with Anthony Edwards, right? So, yeah. There's no reason to continue to add more assets or use more assets for the current roster construction, right? The current core. We're going to be using those assets for later, right? And maybe we get more assets from the current roster that this team is currently built off of. Hence, DeMar and Vooch. So, just to keep in mind. Last thing before I end the stream tonight. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I appreciate you guys a lot. You guys have been so awesome. And again, thank you so much for sticking with me through my my health issues. I had an allergic reaction to a medicine I was taking. So it was the medicine that was helping me get better, and then I had an allergic reaction to that medicine. So then I was breaking out hives completely. So that's the reason why I missed the last 2 Bulls games for postgame. So I sincerely apologize about that, but I appreciate you guys hanging with me and still coming out when I start upstream again. So you guys have been awesome. I appreciate you guys, all of you that have been hitting the like button already. Helps me out a lot. And I'm still looking to grow the community here because you guys have been a pleasure to have and talk to and interact with because this has been a lot of fun. I know that this bowl season has sucked. I know that this bowl season is making everybody go bald. But at the end of the day, it's sports, and sports is about interacting with fans and talking with you guys as well. So that's what makes sports what it's all about. So just again, thank you a lot for being here. Now, I want to talk about Jared Vanderbilt. Because we brought up Jared Vanderbilt as a guy potentially maybe the Bulls could go after as a decent piece for their future, and maybe he's like a 6th man off the bench, or maybe they haven't become like the center or who knows what, or maybe they have him as a power forward. But how could Jared Vanderbilt get on this team? And it would be very difficult for him to get on this roster because the Utah Jazz, they clearly wanted him in the Rudy Gobert trade. Okay, so Jared Vanderbilt is not making much money. But it's a guy that I think a lot of Bulls fans have kind of liked. He's very defensive oriented. He's, I think, really worked on his game as well. So I know he's a guy that is going to come in and work hard for this Bulls team and continue to get better as he progresses. So, guy that I personally like. Now, the Utah Jazz, the thing with them is that I don't know what they're doing. Okay, when they traded Donovan Mitchell and traded Rudy Gobert, it's like, okay, they're full out rebuilding. And then all of a sudden, they're 19-18 and in the middle of the Western Conference. So, I thought they were trading for Wembanyama, or just tanking for Wembanyama. They're, who knows at this point. It looks like Larry Markkinen might be an all-star. So, I don't know what they're going to do. So, if they're looking to potentially, sell off some guys, I can see Jared Vanderbilt being one of those guys because he's a guy that he's not necessarily a guy you build with. Like he's like a win now type player. right? Even though he isn't that that old, right? So he's 23. Here's his stats for now. 3-point shot is definitely a work in progress, but he's working on it, as you can see. So he's a win now type of guy. So I think that he'd be someone that I could see being sold off from this team. Now I don't know his contract situation, this is the reason why I'm a little bit interested to see what they do, because I don't know if he's locked up long term. Let's see here. So it looks like he did sign something. So he's on the team for next season, but that's it, right? So he's not here for the long term, it looks like. So getting a guy like him is going to take a little bit. Obviously, I think the Utah Jazz want draft picks, so if the Bulls are willing to throw a draft pick their way, yeah, who knows? But it would be, in my opinion, it would be Kobe White, Jared Vanderbilt, and then Bulls will throw in a guy like Marco or something like that. Okay, or sorry, the Jazz have to throw on someone, so they'll throw on someone else here. That's making very little amount of money. No, that's too much. Wait, what? Yeah. That's so Vanderbilt, Kobe. This, that also does not. 125% of next threshold. I feel like this is not this isn't just computing correctly. Just weird. Okay, so maybe what is Leandro? I don't even know his name personally, so I apologize who this is. Is he not even on the? No, he's on the team. In my head, that trade that I drew up should work. I don't know why it's not working, and all I can think about is that he's not guaranteed. But to me, this is a fully guaranteed contract for at least this season. So I don't know. This is odd to me that this trade doesn't work where I just add in this guy. But so let's just add in this guy instead, Udoka Azubuike, who I'm actually aware of. Haven't watched too much of the Utah Jazz, obviously. So this would kind of be the trade where they're like, okay, we want Kobe. We'll take on Kobe and bet on him. And then we'll get Jared Vanderbilt in this deal. Bulls might have to add in a second or maybe in a first to do it again. If the Bulls do it, who knows? I personally would not. I would not trade a first for Jared Vanderbilt. I'd be willing to throw in a second, which the Bulls don't have very many to trade from. So, yeah, I don't know how this exactly would work. I think the Bulls. So yeah, if you throw in Marco, this trade suddenly doesn't work out. And maybe the Utah Jazz would want him. I don't know why, but it'd be something off of this, which again, not very enticing, right? So a guy like Jared Vanderbilt, hard to get, in my opinion. But it is something to kind of keep in mind. I do think, just in general, there's going to be teams calling for Jared Vanderbilt. Okay, so I won't be shocked to see like one of the contending teams call for Jared Vanderbilt, because that's a guy that they could easily use on their roster. So yeah, hi Cucklord, good to see you here again. I am up late, but I am about to end stream. So I want to say one last time as I do officially end stream. Thank you guys a lot for the support and for being here and being part of this community. It's been awesome. And even though this Bulls season has been an absolute roller coaster, we had the Bulls being the good teams but losing to the bad teams, I'm going to be here. I'm still going to be here making content and hanging with you guys, doing streams, mostly streams from here on out. And I look forward to it, even though that this Bulls season has been absolute hell for us to go through. But that's going to do it for the stream tonight. Bulls got a crazy win against the Milwaukee Bucks out of all teams after losing to the damn Houston Rockets. But the Bulls got the win against the Milwaukee Bucks. And screw you, Grayson Allen. Screw that guy. But that's going to do it for me for the stream. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have not already, I appreciate if you hit the like button on the stream. Helps me out a lot. If you're new to the channel and like Bull's content, hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're new to the channel and are not follow me on Twitter, here is my Twitter link to my profile. Follow me here for in-game analysis on all Bulls games and also stuff around the league. Yeah, and I'll be continuing to make YouTube content as well, as I'm now officially, starting to feel better from my sickness and stuff like that. But I think that's honestly going to be it. I want to give one shout out to Noel for being here for both streams. I had 2 streams today. I had to end the first stream early, and then shout out to you, Cuckalord, also for coming back as well. Yeah. Again, thank you guys a lot. But go ahead and enjoy your night. And hopefully the Bulls get a win against the Detroit Pistons on Friday, because if we win against the Bucks and then lose to the Detroit Pistons, I'm gonna lose my mind. But it's a good chance of that happening, unfortunately. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.